Ariana Bronte stands in prison.
Her noble yet tragic origins. Despair amidst a beautiful wedding.
Unloved by everyone in life.
Desperately yearning for any affection.
Prince Harold promises her sanctuary.
Blinded by her own desperation, Ariana embraces her manipulative lover.
Coveting his sweet, hollow words.
Ariana becomes Harold's willing tool, a puppet for Harold's ambition. The price of bloodied hands.
Ariana sits beside her victims.
Traitor accused of murdering royalty. Knight sees the betrayed woman. Harold ascends the imperial throne.
As knights restrain her, Ariana cries out in total shock to the man on the throne, desperately begging him to reconsider his cruel decision to abandon her.
A sudden sharp gasp sounding as Ariana screams her lover's name in a final futile attempt to reach the man who has already replaced her. Ariana watches the ultimate betrayal, screaming an agonizing, soul-crushing betrayal.
Clinging to her chains, Ariana looks up at her visitor and asks what she could have possibly done so wrong to deserve such a fate.
The dark-haired Helena looks down with a mocking expression, addressing her sister as a wretched and pathetic girl while answering her desperate question. Helena grabs her sister's face. Helena sneers as she reminds her sister of how men could never seem to leave her alone, regardless of how much others tried to keep them away. Ariana cries out in despair.
Helena cruelly tells her sister that she should never have been born and demands that she live out her final moments as if she were already dead.
Memories of past sisterly bees. Realization comes far too late.
Helena looks down with contempt.
Tears behind a wedding veil. A bride lost in sorrow. Standing alone at the altar. Taking a cold, loveless hand. Loneliness at the grand table. Cruelty hidden within the palace. Looking up from the cold floor, Ariana admits that her sister was right all along and accepts that everything was ultimately her own fault. Helena laughs at the sudden change in attitude, noting that while facing death might have finally given her sister some sense, it is far too late for apologies. A sudden, quick snap sounding as Helena signals the executioner to step forward and finish the grim task that came to complete. The noose awaits its victim.
Helena commands her sister to take all the blame for their crimes and die quietly to preserve the secrets of the throne.
A sudden sharp thud sounding as the support is kicked away, leaving the girl to dangle helplessly in the silent, dark cell, wishing for one more chance. Her name echoes in darkness.
Watching the struggling girl, Helena remarks that if there truly is reincarnation, she hopes her sister returns as nothing more than a lowly insect.
Helena smiles maliciously, suggesting that as an insect, her sister might finally be useful as a meal for some passing beast. Life fades from Blue Eyes, kicking fruitlessly against the air. The final struggle for breath.
One last dark, desperate wish.
May no one ever love her. One word begins the dark tale. Ariana vows to never love again. Darkness swallows the painful memories.
Ariana glares at Helena, vowing that she will engrave the deaths of every single one of them into her own eyes.
The blue-haired girl promises that she will personally hold Helena accountable for every one of her past wrongdoings. A tattered hem marks her fall. Narrative text explains that the vile Countess Ariana, who allegedly assassinated the former emperor, deeply repented for her sins. The records state that she took her own life in the dungeon on the day of her birthday. Ariana hangs lifeless within the cold stone walls of her prison cell.
A formal notice declares that the case of the assassination of the former emperor of the Camellia Empire is officially closed.
A map reveals the Great Camellia Empire, a continent once plagued by conflict and now pacified by vassal commanderies.
Power struggles rage between the Eastern Marquis, Russell White, and the Western Marquis, Rodion Oblin.
The Southern Commandery is described as being quietly reclusive and removed from the affairs of the world.
The Northern Commandery is ruled by the youngest and most beautiful Marquis in history, Cyrus Karha.
One figure is most talked about. Cyrus Karha, the noble Marquis of the North, bore deep resentment toward the Emperor for disregarding his parents' deaths. While appearing focused on holy wars, Cyrus was actually biding his time and quietly amassing his forces.
In the year 222, the third prince, Harold, colluded with the Western Marquis to seize the imperial throne.
Cyrus Karha declared the independence of the North, establishing the Arcane Empire and declaring war on the Camellia Empire.
A hand manipulates the word.
The Camellia Empire fell, and the severed heads of Emperor Harold and Empress Victoria were hung on the palace walls for their crimes. Cyrus stands triumphantly while holding the severed head of the fallen Emperor Harold. A hand falls still after battle.
These events occurred 2 years later.
Cyrus reflects on his completed path. Ariana Bronte spent her final days in a cell, craving a love that only led to her being used and dying unjustly. Two people who walked separate paths in history and never met are suddenly brought together by a mysterious force of will. Snow falls over a noble house. From the shadows of the trees, Cyrus observes Ariana standing on the balcony of Duke Brontes' residence.
He watches the blue-haired girl from a distance as she looks out over the snowy estate.
Cyrus' red eyes are fixed on her with an unreadable and intense expression. A pale hand grips the railing.
Ariana raises her hand into the cold air as the snow falls around her.
The blue-haired girl stares blankly into the distance with a look of profound sorrow. Her blue eyes suddenly widen in a moment of sharp and clear realization. Ariana is overcome with confusion as she asks herself how it is possible that she is still alive. She recalls her own death, remembering how she was struck down by the blade of the Crown Prince. Looking out at the familiar scenery, she realizes with shock that she has somehow returned to the time when she was young. Ariana stands alone on the balcony. A group of noble women walks below, with one expressing her excitement for the party the Northern Grand Duke will be attending.
Helena Bronte wonders aloud how wonderful it would be if the Northern Grand Duke used magic to make an ice flower for her.
Victoria Bronte admits she finds the Duke a bit scary, mentioning how he ignores even the Imperial Princess when she greets him. Victoria continues the gossip by stating that he once killed a dancer on the spot for approaching him without permission. The women discuss rumors that the Duke has already arrived in Suryang as they walk away toward the entrance.
Ariana grips the railing as she recalls Helena and Victoria at their current age, back when rumors of the Grand Duke were first spreading.
She looks out at the garden.
A bitter, determined smile forms. She remembers Helena visiting her in her final moments and how Victoria stole the position of Empress that should have been hers.
Ariana makes a single, solemn vow.
Ariana gazes out with renewed purpose, vowing that she will make all of those who betrayed her pay for everything they did.
Lightning strikes as a voice vows that they will be repaid for their past torment.
Vengeance begins at the Bronte estate.
The storm echoes her internal resolve. Ariana's gaze burns with determination. A door swings open as someone calls for Lady Ariana to come eat her meal.
A freckled maid pushes a meal cart into the room, finding Ariana standing silently by the window.
The maid asks if the girl is hungry since she has not eaten in 3 days. A clink sounds as the maid serves a plate of meat and vegetables covered in green mold.
A dark haze of resentment.
A cruel, mocking smirk plays on the servant's lips.
The maid thinks about how merciful her mistress is for feeding a young lady known for having sticky fingers.
The brown-haired woman smiles maliciously. Ariana stares at the disgusting food with cold indifference.
She remembers the day she was framed for stealing a precious diamond necklace.
Ariana recalls being locked away and beaten for refusing to eat spoiled food in the past.
The commotion then caught the attention of Lady Bronte, Rachel's mother-in-law, who entered with other noblewomen. Even though she begged for mercy, her pleas of innocence were ignored by those around her.
She vividly remembers how the maid, Louise, took pleasure in tormenting her while holding the stolen jewelry.
Looking at the plate, the trauma of the past overlaps with the present moment.
She realizes the cycle of abuse is beginning all over again.
Ariana stares directly at the maid and asks if she truly expects her to eat such filth.
Her hand tightens against her dress. Louise crosses her arms and demands that she hurry up and eat her first meal in days. The maid's eye glints satistically.
She knows her mistress hates Ariana for being an outsider brought from the Eastern Territory. Following Helena's orders, Louise thinks about how she fetched the food from the trash just to spite the girl. The servant realizes Helena enjoys watching the staff mistreat Ariana in these subtle, cruel ways.
Louise suddenly lunges forward, grabbing Ariana and shouting at her to eat the food quickly. A loud crash echoes as Ariana is shoved to the floor, gasping in pain. Standing over her, Louise tells her to stop making a fuss and get up, thrilled to be bullying a princess.
Ariana's fingers suddenly grip the maid's apron as she whispers that things will change right now.
She looks up with a gaze so sharp it freezes the air.
When Ariana mentions the necklace, Louise stammeringly agrees that the jewelry is far more expensive than Ariana's rags. Thuds ring out as Louise kicks the girl, telling her to crawl like an insect and beg as she always does.
A searing throb of anger.
Louise flinches, wondering what has happened to the once timid girl's terrifying gaze. The maid tries to regain control, ordering Ariana to stop acting strange and just shove the food down.
Ariana's ears perk up at the sound of approaching footsteps in the hallway.
She realizes the older Lady Bronte is currently passing by the room. Ariana suddenly suggests they stop the conflict, leaving the confused maid to ask what she means. Standing up, the blue-haired girl says she will stop acting out and finally eat the meal.
A sickening squelch sounds as Ariana stabs the rotting piece of meat with her fork. Louise watches with a bewildered expression. The maid wonders what changed, noting that the girl who used to grovel can now barely be looked in the eye.
As Ariana chews the spoiled food, Louise feels as if she is looking at an entirely different person.
Ariana suddenly lets out a pained gag, causing the startled Louise to ask what is wrong.
The girl doubles over in agony, clutching her chest as a choked sound escapes her. A violent retch sounds as Ariana collapses, leaving the maid panicking and crying out in shock. Shaking the unconscious girl, Louise frantically tells her to get a grip and wake up. The maid trembles with fear, wondering if she will be blamed if the girl dies right here.
Desperate cries for help ring out as the panicked maid discovers Ariana unconscious on the floor.
From a high vantage point, the blonde man notes with grim satisfaction that the girl has finally collapsed as planned. A silent observer's boots shift as the scene below descends into further chaos. Looking down with pity, the blonde man reflects on how the once noble princess of the East is now a victim of Western cruelty. He questions why Cyrus is so intensely focused on the daughter of a man who is his sworn enemy.
Cyrus watches from the shadows, questioning what Ariana could possibly be planning while suffering from such blatant neglect. A cold, knowing smirk plays on Cyrus's lips as he watches the blue-haired girl from a distance. Ariana remains still, her fragile state a stark contrast to the dangerous calculations happening around her. A firm hand grips Ariana's pale wrist as a physician begins his urgent examination. The doctor begins packing his supplies while Ariana gazes upward with a look of quiet, lingering trauma. He informs the gathered nobles that Ariana is suffering from the combined effects of food poisoning and severe malnutrition. As the noble women begin to whisper, the physician pointedly suggests that the girl requires fresh food and better treatment. Keel Bronte listens to the report with a stern expression before dismissing the doctor with a curt acknowledgement. Keel Bronte, the formidable matriarch of the Bronte dukedom, stands with an air of cold authority. Rachel Bronte, the Duchess and Ariana's mother, tries to maintain her composure despite the doctor's damning diagnosis. Resting in her bed, Ariana observes the tension between the women with a sharp and calculating gaze. The two powerful women of the estate face each other, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken resentment. Narrative text reveals that Keel's long absence has left her unaware of the deep-seated malice within her own household. Under the weight of her mother-in-law's stern gaze, Rachel is forced to accept the physician's findings. Ariana realizes she can use the old lady's presence to her advantage and suddenly interrupts the conversation. The blue-haired girl sits up abruptly, looking fragile and distressed as she prepares to play her next move.
A sudden wave of shock ripples through the room as Ariana speaks up in a trembling voice.
Rachel tries to hush her daughter, but Ariana desperately begs her grandmother to listen to her side of the story.
Luigi trembles in the background as Ariana reflects on how the household staff treats her like a bloodless intruder.
With tears in her eyes, Ariana asks if her mistreatment is simply because she is not the Duke's biological child. The noble women are visibly shaken by Ariana's tearful admission of the abuse she has suffered. Keel watches the onlookers' reactions, sensing the brewing scandal that could damage the family's reputation.
Keel demands to know about the missing necklace and asks Rachel if there is any actual proof of theft. Ariana feigns a sudden realization, asking if the missing jewelry is the diamond necklace given as a wedding gift. She points a shaking finger toward the maid, suggesting that Luigi might know more about the diamonds than she lets on. Keel turns her piercing gaze toward the maid, questioning her involvement in the disappearance of the jewelry. Ariana watches the maid with a cold, unwavering stare, waiting for her trap to spring shut. Luigi shouts out a desperate denial, her face contorted with fear as the accusations turn toward her.
Keel commands that the maid be searched immediately as two other women move to restrain the panicking servant.
Luigi boldly claims she has nothing to hide as a hand reaches into the pocket of her apron. A sudden clink sounds as a glittering diamond necklace is pulled from the maid's pocket. Shocked gasps fill the room as the stolen wedding gift is revealed, leaving Rachel and the maid horrified. Hidden from view, a dark and satisfied smirk forms on Ariana's face.
Ariana hides her triumphant expression behind her hand, watching her tormentor's world crumble.
A loud thud sounds as Luigi collapses to her knees, frantically claiming that Ariana has framed her for the theft. Enraged by the betrayal, Keel orders that the maid be beaten and permanently expelled from the mansion.
Rachel shouts at the maid to be silent as Ariana recalls that Luigi was only following Helena's orders.
Rachel worries that the maid's expulsion will cause rumors to spread and damage Helena's reputation. The Duchess looks away in shame while Ariana sits silently, her revenge beginning to take root. Ariana notes that the old lady is now feeling the same distress that she herself was once forced to endure. A flashback reveals that Rachel once fell in love with Jacob Bronte, but their union was opposed due to her high status. After her father ordered her to marry elsewhere, Rachel was forced into a life she never wanted. Having returned after a divorce, Rachel was only reluctantly allowed into the Bronte family with her young daughter. Ariana reflects on how she and her mother both destroyed themselves in a desperate, futile search for love. Back in the present, the blue-haired girl watches her mother and grandmother with a cold, detached intensity.
Ariana vows to stop sacrificing everything.
Cyrus and his companion watch intently. The blonde man credits karma for the current events while expressing his growing interest in the young lady. Cyrus questions Ariana's true age, noting that her maturity and aura seem entirely out of place. Narration describes Ariana's mature expression and unexplainable aura that remains unaffected by the maid's rudeness. Cyrus admits to himself that he strangely cannot take his eyes off the girl's bright blue gaze. The blonde man notes that the current farce is ending and asks Cyrus what his next move will be. Cyrus plans to investigate the mansion further once night falls to find what he is looking for. He wonders if a specific, important item could be hidden somewhere within the estate's walls. Cyrus considers the possibility that Rachel Bronte is the one currently in possession of the hidden object. Night falls over the quiet dukedom.
Moonlight illuminates the empty, grand hallway.
A creak sounds as Ariana enters. Ariana searches the drawers while reflecting on how Rachel's hatred stemmed from her resemblance to the Duke of Dong. Narrative text recalls how Ariana was frequently beaten and deprived of food by her own mother.
Ariana's eyes reflect deep, quiet suffering.
She regrets her past self-inflicted hunger.
Ariana resolves to eat for herself in secret to ensure her own survival from now on. A small gasp escapes as she bites. An unknown voice from the shadows startles Ariana by commenting on her peculiar way of eating. A sudden, sharp startle freezes her. Ariana wonders who the stranger is, realizing the voice belongs to an intruder she has never heard before. Cyrus Karha stands before the brawl. A crisp snap echoes through the kitchen.
Chilling ice shards manifest in here.
Magical energy swirls around the room. Shh, a mysterious power fills the space. Ariana stares up at the intruder. His red eyes gleam with intensity. Narrative text identifies the silver-haired man as Cyrus Karha, the formidable Duke of the North. Cyrus looks down at the girl. A brief transition shifts the scene's focus. Ariana sneaks into the kitchen alone. She searches for food while noting that her grandmother has predictably lost all interest in her well-being. A flashback reveals that Rachel plans to marry Ariana off to Ingo Alfreich in a few months. Ariana recalls being sold off the moment she turned 16 just to expand her family's political influence. Memories of the dreadful days spent at House Alfreich strengthen Ariana's resolve to never return to that life. Ariana realizes she must obtain the power of the Eastern Archduke to escape her miserable fate. She thinks of Russell White, the Eastern Archduke, and her biological father, whom she has never spoken to. Ariana remembers seeing the Archduke only once during a large party held at the Imperial Palace. His coldness remains etched in her memory.
She recalls that he loathed her simply for being the daughter of his rival, Rachel.
Ariana searches for a way to force the Archduke to accept her despite his deep-seated hatred. Narrative text explains the political strife and power rankings between the 4 vassal states surrounding the empire. Rachel was sent to the Eastern Archduke as a strategic political move to maintain a check and balance. Ariana identifies the key to her safety. She plans to bring the Western Archduke's weakness to the East to bargain for her father's protection. Ariana focuses on obtaining the status of being the Eastern Archduke's recognized daughter at any cost. Ariana prepares to endure any required hardship. A hidden observer watches her eat. Cyrus leans against the doorframe and smirks while noting that the girl has a big mouth. The girl stares back while eating her. Ariana recalls rumors about the Northern Archduke's visit and questions if they were actually true. Ariana observes Cyrus, noting she never saw him in her previous life despite far-off rumors. Clutching her nightgown, Ariana worries about the Archduke sneaking in and the blood that follows his presence. A dark question haunts the shadows. Ariana realizes that in the worst-case scenario, the man could kill her to silence her. Tangled memories and a rope appear. Cyrus places a hand on Ariana's shoulder as a soft red light envelops them. She remains calm under his touch. Ariana reflects on her second life being a bonus, showing no fear toward the Archduke's visit. Cyrus adjusts his collar and remarks that he would have greeted her had he known in advance. Cyrus leans in to ask how she knows his identity, while Ariana explains his unique family traits. Cyrus smirks, noting he heard she was as beautiful as a painting as blue flowers frame the scene. Cyrus points out that despite her polite words, Ariana's heart is not racing in his presence. Ariana is perplexed by the man's joking manner instead of the expected death threats. Cyrus asks if he interrupted her meal, and Ariana sarcastically offers him the honor of joining her. Ariana asks if Cyrus can see how flustered she is after finally seeing him in person. Narrative text clarifies Ariana's true meaning is for Cyrus to leave and stop ruining her meal. Cyrus remains completely unfazed by Ariana's thinly veiled hostility. Ariana suggests they both pretend this encounter never happened and go their separate ways. The girl looks away thoughtfully. Cyrus reaches out to touch her hair, noting that women usually fear him or try to please him. Cyrus observes that Ariana neither fears him nor tries to get on his good side. Close-ups highlight their intense, silent standoff. Cyrus looks deep into Ariana's eyes, sensing a gloomy and surging darkness within her. Ariana kneels on the floor as the narration describes her eyes as a blood-red lake. Ariana reflects on Cyrus' young age while a reflection appears in a pool of blood. Ariana wonders what experiences Cyrus has had to possess such a dark and intense look. Blood splatters over their drawing cans. The two lie close together as petals fall around their intertwined hands. A sudden realization sparks within her. Lethal rumors surround the Northern Archduke. He holds her hand firmly. Cyrus looks down with a predatory smirk while still holding Ariana's hand. The girl pulls her hand away. Ariana notes the Archduke is different from rumors and tries to leave if he has no further business. Cyrus suddenly commands Ariana to wait as a bright light flashes behind her. A sudden sharp click sounds. 2 maids enter with a lantern, complaining about Lady Helena's late-night chocolate craving. The maids discuss their mistress being upset after being scolded by the madam because of Luigi. One maid notes that the madam is far too lenient with Lady Helena. Cyrus hides Ariana behind him, pressing a finger to his lips to keep her silent. Ariana realizes Cyrus' hand is cold as she wonders if he knew about the former duchess. The maids search the kitchen while gossiping about the Duke's divorce and remarriage to the current madam. One maid warns to keep the sensitive topic quiet as a sudden footstep sounds nearby. Ariana panics, realizing being caught alone with a man would give Rachel another reason to torment her. Desperate pleas echo in her mind. The maid reaches for the handles. Cyrus pulls Ariana close and covers her mouth as the maid stares blankly into the round. Cyrus hides Ariana in the shadows as a maid searches the kitchen for snacks. A sharp, quiet tsk sound echoes in the sounds. The silver-haired man maintains his firm grip on the girl to prevent her from being discovered.
The maid successfully locates the chocolate her mistress was craving.
Ariana remains tense and motionless while the threat of discovery lingers.
The maid wonders if the girl is intentionally ignoring her before dismissing the thought as impossible.
Narrative text explains that the mansion's maids were rewarded by Rachel for reporting any of Ariana's mistakes.
Ariana expresses quiet disbelief at the servant's behavior.
The maids remain puzzled by the girl's apparent inability to see them despite being in plain sight. Ariana realizes that they have been shielded from view by the Northern Duke's powerful concealment magic.
Cyrus signals for continued silence with a gentle shh sound.
He whispers that he has provided her with a favor and now expects her to be indebted to him.
Ariana internally complains about the Duke's habit of forcing unwanted favors onto others to create debts. Cyrus suggests that since they have just met, she should start becoming accustomed to his peculiar ways. The girl finds the unfolding situation to be incredibly strange.
Ariana notes the disconnect between the man's flirting gestures and the unchanging coldness in his red eyes.
Ariana questions what someone unrecognized by her house could offer him, while Cyrus notes her surprising knowledge of him.
The man confidently asserts that there is nothing he does not already know.
Cyrus asks if she wants to know why Rachel favors the first young lady over her own biological child.
Ariana gazes up at him, her attention fully captured by his provocative question.
Cyrus attributes his knowledge of the secret to the third prince, leaving Ariana to wonder about the depth of his information.
A lingering question about the man's true purpose for visiting the estate arises.
A sudden, resonant thump sounds as Cyrus places a hand on the girl's shoulder.
Cyrus pulls Ariana into a tight and intimate embrace.
The silver-haired man reveals the shocking secret that Helena is actually Rachel Bronte's biological daughter.
Ariana pretends to be stunned to avoid suspicion, though Cyrus notes her lack of genuine shock before continuing.
Narrative text reveals that Rachel was already pregnant with Jacob's child when her marriage talks with the Eastern Duke started.
A flashback depicts the Western Duke's intense fury upon learning the scandalous news of the pregnancy.
Rachel desperately declares her refusal to give up her child, even if it means her death.
The distraught woman holds a knife to her own throat to defend her unborn baby.
Narration explains the Duke allowed the child to be born only if she was raised outside of his household.
Jacob married a low-ranking baron's daughter who faked a pregnancy to claim Rachel's child as her own offspring.
Rachel stands alone in her wedding dress, reflecting on the heavy burden of her secret and her past.
After rumors of her adultery were spread, the former duchess disappeared and was never seen by anyone again.
A dark and ominous energy pervades the memories of the tragic past. Narrative text identifies Victoria as the child born to the remarried couple, serving as a symbol of their love. Helena grew up as a commoner, serving as a constant living reminder of the pain Rachel had suffered. Ariana asks why he is disclosing this information, and Cyrus admits his interest in her future actions. The two stand together in the dark kitchen, surrounded by the weight of the revealed secrets. Ariana claims she has no intention of acting, identifying only as an unrecognized woman of the ducal house.
She offers a formal bow and politely states that meeting him was an honor.
Cyrus asks if she wants their meeting to be their last, while Ariana advises him to look the other way.
The man watches her with a sharp, predatory intensity in his gaze.
A soft, quick step sounds as Ariana begins to move away.
Cyrus reaches out and grabs her shoulder to prevent her from leaving so easily.
Ariana looks back over her shoulder with a cold and detached expression.
Ariana reflects on the titles and recognition she once craved, realizing they were never truly her own.
She firmly states that she is neither a member of the Bronte family nor a lady of their house.
Cyrus smiles and asks what he should call her now that she has rejected her family identity.
A crisp step sounds as Ariana walks away, leaving the man behind in the shadows.
Ariana tells the man she has no reason to continue their conversation.
The girl asserts he has no reason to call her anything at all.
A crisp, quiet step sounds as Cyrus turns to leave the room.
The silver-haired man walks alone across the vast, snow-covered estate grounds.
Victoria exclaims in shock, asking Cyrus what he has done.
Victoria complains that he got involved in an unnecessary mess and engaged in pointless chatter without any need. Victoria angrily questions why he pulled the young lady close and used stealth magic.
A soft, quick tap sounds as Cyrus reaches out toward the blonde girl.
Cyrus places a hand on the blonde woman's forehead as she wonders if he is sick or if the local water does not suit him.
Cyrus claims he is perfectly fine, leading Victoria to ask why he acted that way.
Cyrus asserts that the woman has value and can be useful to him. The blonde woman looks on with a confused and pensive expression.
Victoria asks if his plan is to flirt and share secrets instead of threatening her, while Cyrus explains she cannot be broken by brute force.
Cyrus states that the woman knows something that will make dealing with both dukes much easier once uncovered.
Victoria internally wonders if his plan makes sense and asks what will happen if she turns out to be useless. Cyrus coldly declares that he will simply discard her if she has no purpose.
A rhythmic, sharp click sounds as a woman in a red dress walks down the hall. A dark-haired woman in a red gown stops as someone calls Helena's name. Victoria approaches Helena, who turns around with a look of recognition.
Victoria mentions hearing that Helena got into trouble with her mother recently.
The blonde girl offers a bright and cheerful smile to her companion. Victoria maintains her pleasant and innocent expression during their talk. A sudden sharp snap sounds as Helena points an accusatory finger and shouts that everything is Victoria's fault.
Helena yells that Victoria suggested giving Ariana spoiled food, causing her to collapse and report it to their grandmother. A subtle, knowing smile plays on the blonde girl's lips during the confrontation.
Victoria claims she only said Ariana was suited for leftovers and notes how she is now living comfortably because their mother brought her there.
A soft, quick brush sounds as Victoria consoles Helena, claiming she feels awful about the scolding she received.
Helena dismisses the apology, saying that Victoria feeling bad is enough for her.
A quiet, sharp gasp sounds as Victoria internally observes that Helena must have felt very wronged.
Victoria mentions Helena lost a maid due to the incident while Ariana is likely relaxing in a fancy new room.
A sudden, loud scream sounds as Helena rages about her intense hatred for Ariana's arrival.
Helena admires a handsome portrait of Cyrus, admitting it makes her feel better.
Helena claims hanging the Northern Lord's portrait was a good choice, which Victoria hesitantly agrees with. Helena wonders if the real Northern Lord matches his portrait and notes they will find out upon his arrival.
Helena asks when he will arrive, while Victoria reminds her she begged for the invitation to be sent.
Victoria remains silent with a deeply thoughtful look on her face.
A close-up highlights the blonde girl's intense and calculating gaze. Helena asks why Victoria would feel bad for their rival. Victoria reflects on how the girl would want to attend the party but lacks proper clothes and etiquette.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Victoria notes the girl would only embarrass herself if she attended.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Victoria pulls Helena into a tight and manipulative embrace. The blonde woman reveals she has just had a brilliant idea.
A soft, long sigh sounds as Ariana looks out the window into the bright day.
Ariana reflects on her encounter with the Northern Lord a few days ago. Ariana wonders if the man left without a trace just like in her past life.
A soft, quick shiver sounds as the girl notes the intense cold. A soft, quick rustle sounds as the girl crosses her arms against the chill.
Narrated text announces a garden party at the Bronte estate will be held inside a massive greenhouse. Narrative text explains Rachel wants Helena to build connections before her upcoming debutante ball.
A crisp, quiet step sounds as Ariana recalls how those efforts helped Helena in her past life.
Ariana walks past two whispering maids as she makes her way through the mansion.
Her footsteps are heavy with resolve, knowing Rachel will notice her absence but deciding she no longer cares. In the distance, servants prepare the garden for a celebration that Helena is expected to enjoy.
Ariana reflects on her past life, remembering this as the day she was finally released from a cramped room.
In this timeline, she wanders through the open garden, relishing a freedom she once found precious.
The girl pauses, her expression hardening as she senses an inevitable confrontation approaching.
A woman in a dark gown stands further down the path, her presence immediately chilling the air.
Ariana's eyes narrow as she realizes she has finally run into the person she was looking for.
Rachel looks on with intense loathing, a woman who hates her daughter and is hated in return. Without a word, the blonde woman raises her hand to deliver a violent strike.
Rachel snarls, demanding to know who gave Ariana permission to go outside.
Holding her stinging cheek, Ariana recalls how she was beaten in her previous life without ever knowing why.
This time, she stares back with cold defiance, refusing to be the silent victim she once was. As the assault continues, Ariana asks if she truly needs permission just to look her mother in the eye.
Her voice rings out with a provocation, asking if the hatred stems from her eyes resembling the Eastern Lords.
Ariana stands her ground, her blue eyes flashing with a newfound and dangerous intensity. She questions if simply looking like a man Rachel despises is reason enough for such sustained cruelty.
Rachel's face contorts in a terrifying rage as she calls Ariana a wretched child. The woman continues her physical assault, screaming that Ariana should be grateful she was even born.
Rachel shrieks that she never wanted this child and blames her for all the pain in her life. A heavy hand swings through the air again as the woman loses all semblance of control.
Rachel rages about having to leave her newborn Helena to give birth to a creature she despises because of the Eastern Lord.
The world seems to blur as Rachel shouts that both the man and his child are disgusting.
Deep resentment fills the woman's thoughts, wishing she had never followed the orders that kept Ariana alive.
A memory surfaces of a younger Rachel reading a letter that sealed her tragic fate. The document commanded her to take the child, raise her well, and eventually marry her off.
Rachel's internal monologue reveals that the girl's very face makes her skin crawl with disgust.
The woman's voice cracks with madness as she declares she never intended for her daughter to survive.
A sudden, brilliant surge of mystical energy manifests as a hand reaches out toward the conflict.
A sharp cry sounds as Rachel is violently thrown backward, leaving Ariana stunned on the ground.
The woman gasps in shock as large, heavy hailstones begin to plummet from the clear sky.
A rhythmic, sharp tap sounds as the ice hits the ground, signaling a sudden shift in power.
Fleeing the unexpected storm, Rachel orders Ariana to stay put and think about her actions.
Ariana watches her mother retreat, her gaze filled with a cold and calculating resolve.
A gloved hand reaches down through the falling hail to offer the fallen girl assistance.
Cyrus stands before her, his silver hair and red eyes a stark contrast to the wintry chaos.
While Rachel huddles in fear in the distance, Ariana looks back at the woman she has finally renounced.
The girl resolves to stop seeking approval and vows to return her mother's hatred in full.
She plans to use every bit of the evidence left behind today to secure her own future.
Cyrus watches the falling ice, asking if she is the one responsible for controlling the weather.
A quiet, sharp snap sounds as a fist clenches, a physical sign of the tension between them.
The silver-haired man informs her that he has provided her with yet another unsolicited favor.
He asks why she would choose to provoke her mother so recklessly in public. Ariana explains she was only satisfying a curiosity and claims she didn't know the Northern Lord was nearby.
She sarcastically remarks on his popularity with other ladies, while he questions if she would be sad to see him ill.
The man leans in close, his sharp gaze attempting to find a crack in her detached exterior.
Ariana politely takes her leave, noting that he appears to be a busy man with no time for her.
Cyrus watches her walk away, his expression remaining unreadable and distant.
He notes that she is a woman he can neither call by name nor has any reason to call.
A soft, quick gasp sounds as Ariana looks back, confused by the strange encounter.
Standing face to face, Ariana wonders if the silver-haired man's current attitude stems from her previous words as she addresses him as the Northern Lord. Cyrus offers the blue-haired girl a piece of advice despite claiming he has no real reason to call her by name, but she immediately rejects his offer. Ariana tells him he should simply address her by name. A faint, subtle smile plays across the silver-haired man's lips. Cyrus looks down at the girl with a knowing gaze and agrees to her request.
Ariana stares up at the tall man with a mix of wariness and curiosity.
She asks what kind of advice he intended to give while he notes her current expression. A soft, quick brush sounds as the silver-haired man reaches out to gently touch the girl's forehead. Cyrus warns her that showing her killing intent while in such a frail body will only lead to her demise.
Leaning in close, Ariana observes that the man's own eyes are full of a similar murderous intent.
He dismisses her observation by claiming he is strong enough to handle it, prompting her to express jealousy over his ability to show his true feelings. The blue-haired girl remains silent, her gaze drifting downward as she processes his words. She questions whether a man as busy as he is truly has the time to care about how she feels.
Ariana expresses her hope that he completes his current plans without delay.
Cyrus asks if she's suggesting he should finish his business and leave her alone. Maintaining her composure, the girl elegantly lifts the hem of her dress in a formal curtsy.
She denies his suggestion with a polite and practiced smile.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as the man reaches toward her while she begins to turn away. A sudden, loud whoosh sounds as a gust of wind follows her departure across the snowy grounds. Watching her go, Cyrus notes how surprisingly elegant she appears despite her simple attire.
A blonde-haired woman joins him, commenting that the girl does not act like a 16-year-old at all.
Cyrus focuses on the girl's distant figure, doubting that her mother ever taught her imperial etiquette. The woman notes that he assisted the girl yet again, to which he replies that he is simply doing her a favor. As they walk away, Cyrus reflects that his help now will make it far easier to use the girl for his own ends later. Back inside, Ariana stands before a large window, staring at her own reflection in the glass.
She realizes with a start that she had been walking around with a dangerous look in her eyes.
A soft, quick gasp sounds as she notices the faint red mark on her pale cheek. Looking at the grand hallway, the girl resolves to be much more careful with her expressions from now on.
Under the light of a full moon, she admits to feeling uneasy that the Northern Lord was able to see through her facade. Narrative text reveals her awareness that nothing in her second life is proceeding exactly as she once planned.
Ariana walks through the mansion, acknowledging that her actions are changing the future, even as she struggles to adjust.
She reflects on how difficult it is to manage an unpredictable person like this silver-haired man. Her thoughts are interrupted as a blonde girl in a pink dress calls out her name from the staircase. The blonde girl offers a bright, cheerful greeting as she approaches her companion. A decorative frame confirms the identity of the blonde girl as Victoria Bronte.
The narrative identifies the blonde girl as the youngest daughter of the house who is a year younger than Ariana.
Victoria pulls Ariana into a warm embrace, reminding Ariana of how her previous self had once foolishly trusted this outward kindness.
A dark, symbolic image of a snake looming over Ariana represents her realization that Victoria was the one who manipulated their sister Helena.
A memory surfaces of Victoria using her charm to captivate the emperor and eventually ascend to the position of empress.
Ariana recalls her past self being led toward a path of total ruin by the blonde girl's expert manipulation.
Victoria asks if she is all right after being scolded by their mother, but Ariana internally labeled her as the greatest obstacle to her revenge.
While maintaining a pleasant smile, Ariana admits she is fine while surrounded by the symbolic imagery of her hidden resentment.
Victoria's expression shifts as she notes that Ariana seems different than she used to be.
Ariana worries that her calm demeanor was too uncharacteristic and might raise suspicions.
She quickly adjusts her act by playing the part of a distressed child, asking if her mother would prefer it if she were more mature like Victoria. A soft, quick rustle sounds as Victoria hugs her again, reassuring her that she is well liked by everyone.
The blonde girl claims their mother's strictness is merely a sign of high expectations and deep love.
An ominous image of a noose appearing around Ariana's neck emphasizes her secret resolve as she views Victoria as nothing more than an immature child. Ariana reflects that Victoria's current lack of experience is a weakness she can exploit. She vows to shatter the blonde girl's sweet facade before she can grow up, looking toward an empty room as she waits for her chance.
Victoria hands a cup of tea to her blue-haired sister with a pleasant smile.
Ariana looks down at the steaming liquid, noting how hot it appears to be.
The blonde girl criticizes Ariana's lack of etiquette, insisting she should know better at her age. Victoria points toward the saucer, asking if her sister understands its specific purpose during tea.
The blonde girl demonstrates by pouring her tea into the saucer and slurping it loudly. She explains that making a louder noise is a traditional sign of appreciation for one's host.
Ariana plays along with the fake instruction while privately noting Victoria's attempt to make her look foolish.
Victoria smiles triumphantly, unaware that Ariana is recalling the public embarrassment this lie caused in her past.
The blue-haired girl drinks from the saucer, resolving that she will not be easily trampled this time.
Narrative text reveals her secret anticipation for the social gathering scheduled for the following day.
A soft, quick huff sounds as Ariana lies in bed, the bruises on her face a reminder of the recent assault.
A hazy memory depicts a younger Ariana at a party being mocked for wearing an inappropriate dress.
Crowds whisper about her disgraceful behavior and lack of shame as she incorrectly handles her tea.
Rachel apologizes to other nobles, blaming the girl's Eastern heritage for her supposed refusal to learn manners.
Surrounded by judgmental eyes, the younger Ariana trembles as her desperate wish for love is met with scorn.
Victoria approaches her distressed sister, patronizingly suggesting she should have controlled herself for the event.
A close-up of Victoria's eye reveals her underlying malice as she remarks on the limits of her own patience.
A sharp, sudden gasp sounds as Ariana jolts awake in the present, her hands clutching at her sleepwear.
The morning sun streams through the window as she struggles to steady her ragged, shallow breathing.
Sitting up in bed, the girl identifies the harrowing memories as nothing more than a bad dream.
Narrative text reveals how cold weather often triggers these painful recollections of her tragic past life.
Ariana buries her face in her hands, still feeling the weight of the failures that defined her previous existence.
She recalls being tricked by her sisters into dressing like a commoner, becoming the laughingstock of the party.
Getting out of bed, the blue-haired girl admits how foolish she was to trust her family's intentions.
She stands tall in her room, her expression hardening as she prepares to face the coming day.
A decorative frame introduces Duchess Juliana Rebenta, a powerful noble and cousin to the emperor who rules high society. Ariana looks out the window, identifying the Duchess as the essential stepping stone for her escape.
The girl walks through the mansion, her shadow representing the past self she is leaving behind.
She reflects that her current situation is no longer a path toward the death she once suffered.
The scene shifts to a grand, snow-covered estate where numerous ornate carriages are arriving for the party.
Helena stands outside in a red cloak, noting her mother's desperation for her daughters to make good connections.
The blonde girl invites the silver-haired man to attend, suggesting the shock to the other guests would be amusing.
Cyrus reclines on a large tree branch, questioning why he should participate just for Helena's entertainment.
Helena teases him, asking if he wouldn't consider sacrificing a bit of his time for a friend.
The silver-haired man mentions seeing Helena's maids delivering a large amount of goods to Ariana's room.
Cyrus dismisses the idea of visiting Ariana, flatly stating that he has no intention of playing the role of guardian.
His red eyes narrow as he suggests his interests in the girl go beyond simple nanny duties.
Ariana is seen as a distant silhouette through her window, watching the preparations for the party from her room.
The blue-haired girl firmly orders the maid to take the garish yellow dress away and leave.
A sudden loud thud sounds as Cyrus shifts his weight on the high tree branch overlooking the grounds.
A close-up reveals the silver-haired man's pensive expression as he continues to observe the mansion.
He concludes that the blue-haired girl is capable of handling herself without his interference.
Inside the party, musicians play elegant melodies while guests inquire about the long, cold journey.
Duchess Juliana Rebenta observes the room from behind her fan, her gaze sharp and discerning. The influential Duchess walks through the hall as other noble ladies offer their respectful greetings. Juliana asks about the Bronte family's second daughter, prompting Rachel to claim Ariana is feeling unwell.
Maintaining a false smile, Rachel reassures the Duchess that Ariana will be joining the festivities very soon.
Another guest expresses confusion, mentioning that Ariana told her she wouldn't be attending at all today. Rachel's face contorts with shock and anger as her conflicting lies are exposed in front of the Duchess.
A hush falls over the gathering as Ariana makes her entrance, her presence signaled by her cascading blue hair.
Ariana enters looking serene and peaceful.
She maintains a subtle, gentle smile.
Rachel is paralyzed with shock.
Rachel questions why she came if she was sick, to which Ariana apologizes for being late and claims no one told her the start time.
Victoria watches the scene with disbelief. Victoria internally questions where Ariana got those clothes and what happened to the garish outfit Helena had prepared.
The blonde girl notes that Ariana failed to even cover her bruises with makeup.
Victoria decides she must intervene immediately.
Helena interjects first, greeting Ariana. Helena reflects that standing next to her shabby sister will make her look better, while Ariana greets her as well.
Ariana addresses her sister formally as her lady.
Guests are stunned by the address as Helena awkwardly tries to invite Ariana for tea.
Crowds whisper about Helena's unusual reaction.
Rachel forces a smile while questioning Ariana's health and the source of her old clothes. The blue-haired girl claims she is simply hungry and that this is her only dress.
Ariana reveals her scarred wrist, explaining that she only attended because the maid scolded her. Surrounding nobles gossip about the girl's poor treatment and her lack of Bronte blood.
Victoria questions her sister's strange speech. The blonde girl accuses Ariana of trying to embarrass their mother with lies. Victoria maintains a look of concern. Playing the victim, Ariana apologizes to Lady Victoria and admits she does not belong at the party. Ariana internally dismisses her blood family.
She reflects that the truth is less interesting to high society than a public family scandal.
The girl resolves that her reputation is a small price for her goals.
The garden party becomes a farce. Memories of past shame drive her. A noblewoman interrupts, stating she cannot bear to see Ariana tormented by her family any longer.
Close-up of the girl's bruised wrists. Guests observe Ariana with pitying eyes.
Ariana admits she is starving, shocking a noblewoman.
A guest offers her cookies while Helena watches with growing rage.
Helena fumes as guests show kindness. A dark, oppressive mood fills the air. The dark-haired sister laments that her own party has been overshadowed by her shabby sibling.
Victoria realizes their plan has failed.
She recalls how Ariana was supposed to look like a fool and be mocked by everyone.
Ariana politely accepts the offered tea.
Victoria panics as she realizes Ariana is about to use her earlier fake lesson against her.
Ariana begins drinking the tea directly from the saucer.
The entire room watches in silence.
Victoria is frozen by the display. Helena demands to know why her sister is drinking in such a bizarre fashion.
Ariana gazes up with wide, innocent eyes.
The girl claims Lady Victoria taught her this was the proper way, prompting a panicked denial from Victoria.
Ariana explains that Victoria taught her the lesson in her room yesterday to avoid humiliation before begging for forgiveness for her supposed mistake.
Guests whisper that the girl's terrified expression proves the bruises are real.
A soft, quick snap sounds as a noblewoman closes her fan in petty.
Duchess Juliana Robenta addresses Rachel, noting the irony of how the girl was kept hidden.
The Duchess remarks with a cold gaze that she now sees exactly how Rachel treasures her second daughter.
Juliana rejects Rachel's excuses, asking if the girl supposedly gave herself bruises in places she could not even reach. Rachel looks absolutely livid as she considers whether the Eastern Duke is aware of his daughter's mistreatment. Her composure snaps entirely as she calls out desperately for the Duchess's attention.
Framing the girl amidst floral borders, Rachel concludes that the second daughter has finally reached the age for her social debut.
The blue-haired girl stands alone, her expression weary as the events of the day weigh heavily upon her.
Duchess Juliana hides a knowing, subtle smile behind the intricate lace of her red fan.
The Duchess reaches out to the girl, her touch marking a pivotal shift in the social hierarchy.
Narrative text confirms that the grand social gathering concluded on an utterly miserable note for the hosts.
A silhouette of the blue-haired girl is cast against a fractured red background as she is beaten and confined to a basement.
Sitting alone on the cold floor of her cell, the girl reflects that her current suffering is of no consequence.
Imagining Rachel ensnared in a massive spiderweb, the girl notes that the Duchess is now forced to include her in the social season.
A faint, satisfied smile plays on her lips as she remains sequestered in the darkness.
She realizes that her previous fear of being hated was the only thing protecting her fragile reputation.
A soft, quick huff sounds as she sits against the stone wall, the weight of her family's betrayal lingering.
The blue-haired girl touches her bruised face, a physical reminder of the price she paid for her plan.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as she moves her hand away, her resolve hardening despite the pain.
Looking back at her time in the dark, she notes the vast difference between her endurance and her sister's frailty. A soft, quick gasp sounds as she senses a presence, identifying the visitor as the Northern Lord. Cyrus approaches with a lantern, his voice demanding to know who has the audacity to block his path. The silver-haired man peers through the iron bars, his red eyes searching for the girl in the gloom. A close-up reveals the intensity of his gaze as he observes his captive friend.
The girl looks back with unblinking blue eyes, showing no fear of the powerful man before her.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Cyrus grips the bars of the cell, his presence filling the small space.
He questions why Rachel Bronte would be so hell-bent on destroying her own flesh and blood.
The girl explains that her relationship with her mother is merely one of many complex bonds in their world.
A soft, quick huff sounds as Cyrus looks down at her, the silence of the basement thick with tension.
She watches him closely, waiting for his reaction to her cold assessment of her family.
Their gazes meet through the bars, a clash of fire and ice in the dim lantern light.
Cyrus admits she is a fascinating woman, while the girl wonders if she can truly interest a man who feels nothing.
Shifting the lantern, the silver-haired man asks if he should simply leave her to her fate. His expression remains inscrutable as he continues to study her every movement.
The blue-haired girl assumes he finds her presence bothersome, noting how no woman has ever treated him this way.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as Cyrus asks if the Eastern Lord knows of the cruelty she endures.
She replies that it doesn't matter, as the rumors from today's party will prevent anyone from claiming ignorance.
A close-up of Cyrus's eye reflects his intrigue as she explains the Duke's need to avoid a public scandal.
Cyrus mocks the girl's small stature and large thoughts, prompting a sharp retort about his own head size.
A soft, quick laugh sounds as he asks if she truly believes he lacks her capacity for strategy.
His red eyes narrow slightly, finding amusement in her refusal to be intimidated.
The girl covers her mouth as she laughs, a rare moment of genuine emotion breaking through her stoic facade.
A gentle smile lingers on her face as she looks up at the man who has infiltrated her prison. Cyrus watches her intently, surprised to find that she actually knows how to express joy.
A sudden, light tap sounds as he reaches through the bars to touch her forehead with his finger.
In the falling snow, the silver-haired man asks the girl if she has ever moved to tears.
He admits with a dark smile that he would very much like to witness her crying.
A close-up shows a single snowflake landing near her eye, mimicking the teardrop he desires to see. A soft, quick sniff sounds as a lone tear escapes her eye, catching the faint light of the basement.
The girl stares at him coldly, offering to weep on command if that is what he requires of her.
Their eyes lock once more, the distance between them feeling smaller despite the iron barrier.
Crouching outside the cell, Cyrus asks what his companion truly hopes to gain from the Bronte estate. He refuses to answer her questions, pointing out her own reluctance to be open with him. The girl stands tall behind the bars, asking if she truly looks like someone who fears his blade. Cyrus observes that she seems completely unfazed by the threat of his blade. He questions if the prospect of starvation is enough to break her resolve.
Ariana reflects that the darkness hides her expression as she admits that pain and hunger are familiar companions.
Cyrus warns her about the consequences of her mother's fury, but Ariana notes she is no stranger to being locked away.
A soft, quick huff sounds as the silver-haired man looks even more intrigued by her defiance.
Cyrus admits that his fascination with her only continues to grow.
The blue-haired girl remains seated on the cold floor of her cell as light filters through the bars.
She shudders, finding the physical toll of her situation to be a mere nuisance.
Ariana considers if the Grand Duke might be a potential ally given his disdain for Rachel. She recalls a blonde man's desperate claim that she was the only one he had left.
Her expression hardens as she looks toward the future with a focused gaze.
She reminds herself that becoming entangled with a man as powerful as Cyrus is a grave risk.
Ariana crouches in the shadows, deciding that the silver-haired man is too unpredictable to control easily.
She remains silent, the cold bars of the prison framing her solitary figure.
The girl reflects on her profound isolation and the constant threat of being stabbed in the back. She resolves that she must walk her difficult path entirely alone.
The night sky stretches above, filled with distant stars and cold clouds.
High atop a stone tower, Cyrus gazes out over the sprawling palace grounds.
A soft, quick snap sounds as he realizes Ariana will likely attempt to escape her cell cern. He notes that despite her circumstances, she possesses the innate dignity of a queen. Cyrus contemplates Ariana's role as the crucial link between the rival Eastern and Western dukes. He wonders if she is merely a pawn being used by players who despise her. A hand firmly places a tarot card down on the marble table. The man concludes that Ariana has no intention of letting herself be used by anyone. Ariana sits alone with her cards, the flickering candlelight illuminating her intense features. Cyrus questions the true source of the lethal hatred he sees reflected in her eyes.
The silver-haired man stands alone on the balcony under the vast moonlit sky.
He pauses in thought, a look of somber reflection crossing his face. A soft, quick gasp sounds as a memory of his own past begins to surface. The scene shifts to a desolate frozen forest buried deep in snow. A figure struggles through the blizzard, fighting against the suffocating cold. The lone traveler collapses onto the icy ground, his strength nearly spent.
He pants heavily, exhausted by his desperate struggle to survive.
He stares into the ice, seeing a reflection of the child he once was.
Cyrus wonders why he and Ariana seem to share such a similar darkened spirit.
He searches for the origin of the relentless malice that fuels her actions. He questions if it stems solely from the abuse and neglect she suffered at home. He realizes that her anger is rooted in something far deeper and more complex.
A soft, quick laugh sounds as he finds her mysterious nature to be utterly captivating.
Cyrus deduces that she seeks the Eastern Duke's protection to uncover the truth about her parents. He notes that her ultimate target has been Rachel all along. He labels her a dangerous and unpredictable variable that should normally be eliminated. The two stand face to face, a silent understanding passing between them amidst the falling snow.
A soft, quick huff sounds as Cyrus decides that her potential value makes her worth keeping alive.
Tense, jagged lines fill the background as the focus shifts away from the basement. A sudden, sharp scream echoes through the manor as a demand for the girl is made.
The maids tremble before the blonde girl as shards of broken porcelain litter the floor.
Helena rages at their failure, while the maids explain that Ariana used her noble status to defy them. Helena's eyes widen in absolute fury at her sister's sudden and unexpected boldness. She seethes with resentment, wondering why she is always forced to endure such constant irritation.
In a flashback, Rachel scolds Helena for causing their mother's anger, accusing her of suggesting they bring the dog to the party while Helena tearfully denies it, explaining she only felt sorry for the animal. The brown-haired woman continues her tirade, insisting she never would have brought the dog if not for Helena, before a sudden, sharp tsk sounds as she shoves her sister aside.
A loud metallic clang sounds as Victoria enters the room, demanding to know the cause of the noisy commotion.
The woman rushes into the room and shouts at the girls to stop their fighting immediately.
Victoria asks if anyone is hurt, while Helena looks up in tearful desperation, calling out to her mother.
Victoria surveys the scene with a cold, weary expression, her patience clearly reaching its limit.
Reaching out to touch the girl's bruised face, Victoria advises her daughter not to provoke her older sister so much.
A dark realization settles over the room as the narrative suggests that, as the younger sister, she is expected to simply endure the abuse.
A close-up of a wide, traumatized eye highlights the deep emotional scarring caused by her family's cruelty.
Helena stands alone in her room, the weight of her sister's aggression and her mother's indifference crushing her spirit.
Helena questions why they always favor Helena when she is their biological daughter, wondering if her mother truly prefers her over her sister.
She looks at a family portrait, struggling to comprehend the source of the persistent favoritism that defines her life.
Helena reflects on the terrifying possibility of eventually ending up in Ariana's miserable position.
A sudden, loud scream echoes through the manor as Helena finally breaks down in front of her terrified maids. She continues to wail in agony, her physical and emotional pain reaching a breaking point as she grips her head.
Dark thoughts cloud her mind as she realizes the current state of affairs cannot continue any longer.
Helena blames Ariana for the failure of her plans, her eyes burning with resentment as she declares everything to be her sister's fault.
She is certain that Ariana has fundamentally changed, becoming a cold and calculating presence she can no longer ignore.
Helena recalls Ariana's questioning gaze, wondering why her sister's behavior has shifted so drastically.
Ariana sits quietly in her dark prison cell, the bars casting long shadows across the cold floor.
A sudden, desperate cry for mercy rings out, catching Ariana's attention as she remains sequestered.
Guards drag two weeping maids toward the cells, ignoring their desperate claims that they were wrong and will not repeat their mistakes. The guards explain they are following Lady Victoria's direct orders as they shove the women into the darkness.
The maids wail and beat against the bars, begging to be let out as they are locked away.
Ariana watches the scene with a detached expression, her own isolation feeling far more profound than theirs. She spends her time stacking stones on the floor, finding a strange sense of purpose in the solitary task.
Ariana reflects that Helena is not strong enough to withstand this life, grateful she returned all the way to her childhood rather than just a few years ago.
The sounds of ooh-hoo and hoo-hoo echo through the basement as the maids sob in their nearby cell.
Ariana looks toward the source of the noise, her face reflecting a cold, calculating calm.
She notes that the maids are lucky to have each other to talk to during their confinement.
Ariana lies down on the dirt floor, reminding herself that she is already well accustomed to this kind of suffering.
She comforts herself with the thought that a few nights of sleep will make the time pass quickly.
She remembers how she used to dream of a prince on a white horse coming to save her from her loneliness. A sudden, heavy crash sounds as a man with dark hair bursts into the cell, calling her name. The man gathers her into a warm embrace, apologizing for not knowing she was being treated so cruelly and promising it will be all right.
He urges her to come with her daddy, his voice full of tender affection.
He vows that no one will ever be allowed to mistreat her ever again under his protection.
Narrative text suggests a happy ending, contrasting sharply with the grim reality of her current situation. Ariana realizes this vision is just a dream, a hollow fantasy of the love she simply needed but never received.
Tearing herself away from the illusion, she faces the man in the vision and calls him her lord with a voice devoid of affection. Ariana declares that she no longer requires his so-called love and will never beg for anyone's affection again.
The man fades into black smoke, his presence vanishing as quickly as it appeared in the gloom.
She resolves that crying over such things is useless and would only lead to further weakness.
A sudden, light clinking sounds as a tray of bread and a flask is placed on the floor for her. Ariana stares at the food with a hollow gaze, her physical needs becoming impossible to ignore. Cyrus notes that while hunger is bearable, thirst is a much more difficult trial, while Ariana quietly reflects on her starvation.
Ariana looks at the silver-haired man, noting that the trouble at the Bronte Manor is clearly far from over.
Shifting his lantern, Cyrus asks if she expected him to leave as soon as his business was finished. A soft, quick flare sounds as the candle flickers, illuminating the silver-haired man's intrigued expression. Cyrus stands before the bars, his presence and the golden light of his lantern filling the small, cold cell.
Cyrus smiles, stating he is not petty enough to consider a few sips of water a grand favor. Ariana sits in her cell, wondering how he entered and deciding she no longer cares to know.
Looking at the bread and flask, Ariana asks why His Highness is showing her such kindness. Cyrus stares back with unreadable eyes.
Shifting his lantern, Cyrus notes that her surprise at his small act of kindness says much about her expectations.
Sitting beside her, Cyrus observes that her life has truly been a cruel one.
Ariana reflects that he finally seems to understand the profound sorrow of her harsh life.
Her thoughts darken under heavy sorrow.
A mental voice questions her resolve.
Recalling a blonde man from her past, Ariana questions if she will give everything for empty words again.
She warns herself not to be swayed by emotions that were never truly real. Ariana resolves to never waver again. Reclaiming her composure in the cell, she resolves that she will not allow herself to be fooled anymore. She tells Cyrus not to shake her again, suggesting he show kindness to the woman he actually desires.
Cyrus asks if she is referring to the first daughter who hung his portrait in the manor.
He notes Rachel could be helpful, then asks what she would do if he investigated who sold the portrait.
His eyes narrow with lethal intent.
Cyrus summons a glowing blue orb of magic, vowing to kill anyone involved with his stolen portrait.
She stares, stunned by his bloodlust. The rumors of his cruelty are true.
Cyrus notes her silence, while Ariana claims she is simply the quiet type to hide her involvement.
The silver-haired man asks if she is effectively telling him to shut up and leave.
Ariana remarks that he keeps twisting her words, making it difficult to respond. Cyrus leans closer, asking if he can take everything she has said at face value.
He watches her with piercing eyes.
Cyrus simply agrees, their proximity making the atmosphere in the cell increasingly heavy.
A sudden light top sounds as he reaches out to touch her collar.
Surrounded by a romantic aura, he asks if her heart is racing for him as well.
The lantern flickers on the floor.
They share a silent, intense moment framed by ethereal blue roses.
Shimmering lights fill the quiet space. Shifting away from the cell, a man demands to know if the garden party was truly insignificant.
Jacob Bronte shouts in frustration, asking if she is being serious about the garden party scandal. He tells Rachel that this embarrassment cannot be easily forgotten by the high society.
Rachel listens as he points out that the daughter of the Western Lord and capital nobles witnessed everything.
Jacob wonders how he can show his face in public while Rachel tries to call him.
Rachel seethes with a silent fury. She recalls Ariana's strange behavior at the party, noting she seemed like a completely different person lately.
Rachel decides they must crush Ariana's spirit again before the social season begins.
She contemplates a dark method to bury the scandal, thinking a news story can be easily fabricated. Touching Jacob's shoulder, Rachel promises him that the issue with Ariana will be dealt with very soon.
She reflects that she once planned to marry Ariana off, provided the girl remained obedient.
Rachel glares with hatred, declaring that Ariana brought this punishment upon herself.
Back in the prison, Cyrus repeats his question about her heart pounding for him.
Ariana maintains a cold, detached pace. She retorts that he should make a fitting expression himself, adding she was never raised to be ladylike.
Cyrus smirks and asks if she thinks he might die from his heart racing.
Ariana smiles softly amidst blooming flowers, noting that he seems to be fully aware of her thoughts.
He remains captivated by her presence. Cyrus concludes that men are often willing to risk everything just to see a woman smile.
Cyrus asks Ariana if his actions are what she expected, but she remains enigmatically non-committal.
The silver-haired man smirks while holding his lantern, its golden glow illuminating his sharp features. Reaching out to lift her chin, the man asks if she intends to use her smile as a weapon.
Leaning close amidst ethereal blue roses, he suggests that mastering her expressions could grant her dominion over the world.
Ariana smiles back, questioning if his own success was built on such a foundation.
Cyrus calls her a fast learner, his red eyes narrowing with an intrigued amusement.
He gently releases a lock of her long blue hair, admitting he has yet to achieve such a lofty goal himself.
A sudden, brilliant flash of light fills the cell as the man begins to disappear into thin air.
Ariana is left alone in the dark, wondering if he has truly vanished without another word.
She remembers a past encounter in a kitchen, realizing he might simply be lingering out of her sight.
The blue-haired girl remains seated on the floor, her gaze fixed on the shadows near the cell bars.
Looking at the tray of bread and water, she concludes that his kindness must serve a hidden purpose.
Resolving to stay guarded against any manipulation, Ariana lies down on the hard floor to sleep.
An oppressive darkness settles over the scene as the night deepens in the cold prison.
Cyrus stands silently outside the bars, watching the sleeping girl with a contemplative expression. He marvels at her composure, noting how unusual it is for someone to remain so calm in such a wretched place.
Shimmering magical particles drift through the air around the sleeping Ariana as Cyrus observes from the shadows.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounds as Cyrus walks through the dense forest, his heavy cloak billowing behind him. Two knights wait in respect as their lord approaches them in the secluded woods.
Narrative text introduces the red-haired Louis as the captain and the dark-haired Noah as the vice-captain of the Black Knights.
Cyrus asks if their mission was successful, and Noah reports that the capital nobles have already left the region.
Noah further explains that the recent garden party seemed like a mere formality for the Bronte family's eldest daughter. Cyrus dismisses news about a man named Isaac and tells his subordinates they are free to leave.
A comical silence hangs over the trio as they stand together in the sun-dappled forest.
Noah asks if their next move involves returning to the Northern Legion.
Cyrus looks away with a troubled gaze, stating that their business here is not yet finished.
When Noah suggests his hesitation is due to Ariana, Cyrus reacts with visible shock and annoyance.
Lewis delivers a quick, sharp strike to Noah's head to stop his tactless questioning.
A sudden, desperate cry of "axe" sounds as Noah reels from the blow, while a fiery aura erupts around the enraged Cyrus.
Cyrus declares they cannot return empty-handed after coming so far, standing with his hand on his sword.
He stares back toward the Bronte Manor, his expression hidden as his subordinates look on.
A formal announcement confirms that they will wait one more week before departing the area. A sudden, light scuff sounds as a pair of dark shoes walks across the polished stone floor.
Ariana stands outside the prison tower, shielding her eyes as the bright morning sun hits her.
She realizes she was only confined for a few days, noting that her family released her sooner than expected.
Helena approaches with a parasol in hand, calling out to her sister with a facade of warmth.
The blonde girl is shown in her full elegance, her yellow dress and parasol contrasting with Ariana's simple attire.
Ariana plays along by apologizing for the trouble, though Helena insists the family was unbothered by the scandal.
Helena takes her arm and claims she was heartbroken over her sister's recent suffering.
Ariana offers a quiet thank you, her sharp eyes indicating she is well aware of the blonde girl's true nature.
Helena urges her to move along, mentioning that they will be very busy for the foreseeable future. They enter the Grand Manor, and Helena informs her that a tailor is expected to arrive tomorrow. She explains that Ariana needs a new wardrobe for her upcoming presentation in the capital. Ariana finds the sudden generosity highly suspicious, certain that a new plot is being woven by her family.
Helena notes Ariana's lack of enthusiasm, her words accompanied by the menacing presence of a giant serpent.
A dark snake flickers its tongue near Helena's face, symbolizing the hidden danger behind her sweet words.
Ariana quickly fakes a smile and claims to be happy to avoid further scrutiny.
Helena expresses shock at her sister's health, noting how long it has been since she had a proper meal.
A sudden light swish sounds as Helena directs Ariana toward her room to rest and wait for food.
As Ariana turns away, Helena declares that her sister is the only person she can truly rely on. Helena emphasizes their bond, claiming Ariana is the only family she has left.
A heavy door closes, sealing Ariana inside the room.
Ariana is surprised to find herself in a fine room rather than her usual shabby quarters.
She notes that even her old accessories remain, left untouched because her sisters find them out of style.
A soft, rhythmic top sounds as a maid announces she's brought food, and Ariana bids her enter. Ariana turns to face the door as the visitor enters. Noticing the unfamiliar face delivering the meal, Ariana asks the maid for her name.
The short-haired maid stands quietly, her expression neutral as she serves the lady.
A gentle smile touches the maid's face as she looks toward her mistress.
Ariana notes the maid's docile nature, wondering if she is simply new and unaware of the household dynamics.
Turning back to her dresser, Ariana tells the maid she has a favor to ask, and the woman invites her to speak.
Ariana offers a large red jewel, asking the maid to secretly bring a traveling merchant to her in exchange for even more wealth. The maid stares at the glimmering gemstone in stunned silence.
Accepting the bribe, the maid asks where to bring the merchant, and Ariana directs her to the woods by the back gate.
Ariana looks down at the meal that has been laid off for her.
The fresh, hot meal sits enticingly on the table.
Traumatic memories of being fed moldy food and having meals poured over her head by cruel family members resurface.
Despite the dark memories, Ariana sits down to enjoy the first decent meal she has had in a long time. Shimmering magical particles drift through the quiet room.
The girl's long blue hair catches the light.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as Ariana takes her first bite of the hearty food.
She eats with a quiet, determined focus. Ariana resolves to sell the forgotten jewelry to raise the funds necessary for her eventual escape.
A soft, light crunch sounds as she eats, knowing she must rebuild her strength for the challenges ahead. Ariana chews thoughtfully, focused on her survival.
She reflects that, in the end, she is the only person who will truly look after her own well-being.
The plates are left clean after her meal. A light, quick scuff sounds as Ariana walks through the manor's grand arched hallway. A voice calls out her name, causing her to stop and look back.
Ariana bows respectfully to her mother and Rachel, greeting them with formal titles.
Her mother scolds her for being too formal with Helena, while Rachel reacts with a dismissive huff.
When asked where she is going, Ariana calmly explains she wanted fresh air but is willing to return to her room.
The mother beckons her closer, while a nearby maid looks on with visible anxiety.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as the woman's hands adjust a heavy cloak over Ariana's shoulders.
The mother warns her to stay healthy and behave properly for their upcoming trip to the capital. She watches Ariana walk away, noting that the girl is acting in a way she never would have before. Bowing one last time, Ariana promises to be careful as she takes her leave. Walking away, Ariana reassures herself that things will go smoothly as long as she keeps a low profile. A sudden light swish sounds as she wraps the cloak tighter, surrounded by a phantom garden of blue lilies. Sunlight filters through the air as she prepares for her secret meeting. The scene shifts to the bright, sun-dappled canopy of the forest. Golden light pours through the dense green leaves.
Ariana meets the maid and a merchant in a clearing, the maid announcing her arrival.
A soft, low hum sounds as the maid explains she found a merchant willing to do business before leaving the territory.
Ariana offers a quiet word of thanks to the woman for her successful errand.
Ariana reflects that haggling was easy thanks to the business experience she gained from her ex-husband in a past life. She secures a defensive dagger in a pouch containing 22 gold coins. A light metallic clink sounds as she holds the pouch, marveling that this is the first money she has ever truly owned. She worries about being caught with the gold, wishing she could deposit it in a bank while still tracked. A sudden light swish sounds as the maid leans in, asking if Ariana has any further instructions.
Ariana asks Rosalind if her mother gave her any secret instructions.
Rosalind notes the Duchess's caution, admitting that tattling wouldn't pay well.
Ariana looks contemplative in the sun-dappled courtyard.
Ariana notes that Rosalind is a new variable in this timeline.
Ariana instructs the maid to deposit her money into a bank. A warm, hazy light fills the scene. Ariana reflects that trusting Rosalind was a necessary gamble.
Rosalind confirms the funds are at the reliable Braden Bank.
Rosalind presents the account proof, surprising Ariana with her initiative.
Ariana realizes Braden Bank's future success validates Rosalind's wisdom.
Rosalind offers a token, her calloused hands revealing a hidden past.
Ariana observes the golden coin in her par.
Rosalind explains the coin serves as her personal account token.
Ariana reflects on finally possessing her own financial security.
A soft, low hum sounds as Ariana sits alone.
Ariana feels confident she now has enough to escape.
Narrative text marks 2 weeks until the capital departure.
Ariana resolves to obtain one final piece of leverage first. She aims to uncover the secrets involving Rachel and a lord. The scene shifts to the city's gritty back alleys. A hooded figure watches a street fight from above.
Inside a tavern, the hooded woman asks about a job.
She sets a time and place for an upcoming mission. The hooded figure identifies Ariana as the primary target.
She offers a massive payout for the job's completion. The man recognizes the target's identity as a Bronte lady. The hooded woman asserts the dominance of the Bronte family.
The scene emphasizes that House Bronte's orders are absolute. Rachel reveals her cold, calculating face beneath the HUD. Rosalind helps Ariana into an elegant white lace dress. Ariana credits the maid for her improved health and wardrobe.
Through the window, the two prepare for a busy day.
Rachel manages the frantic preparations for her upcoming tea party. Ariana finds her family's sudden kindness deeply suspicious.
A question mark appears as Ariana senses Rosalind's watchful gaze.
Finishing her meal, Ariana calls Rosalind to her side.
Ariana asks for one more favor from the maid. Ariana opens her jewelry box to reveal more hidden treasures.
A sudden light swish sounds as Ariana selects a necklace.
Ariana asks Rosalind to monitor her after she meets her mother. A sudden, soft whisper sounds as Ariana shares a secret instruction. Rosalind offers a firm, silent nod in agreement. Glimmering particles drift through the quiet air. The scene shifts toward the main manor rooms. An ornate chandelier hangs from the manor's high ceiler.
Ariana announces her presence to her mother in the dressing room.
The Duchess praises her daughter's appearance in the new dress.
The mother invites Ariana closer to apply some makeup.
Ariana sits before the large mirror with her mother behind her.
A soft, rhythmic tap sounds as the makeup brush touches Ariana. The Duchess meticulously applies makeup to Ariana's face, her hands steady as she works with a soft brush.
A collection of ornate perfume bottles and jars sits on the vanity as the narration reflects on this mother-daughter rite of passage.
Ariana's eyes narrow as a sudden chill sensation washes over her, sensing a cold malice behind her mother's facade.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as the makeup brush feels as cold as a blade against Ariana's skin, a metaphor for the danger she senses.
Stepping back, the Duchess declares the work finished and praises Ariana's beauty in the mirror.
Ariana reflects that the heavy makeup makes her look vulgar, just as her mother mentions having a favor to ask.
The Duchess leans in close, mentioning a pergola by the pond in the forest as a dark aura surrounds them. With a sinister smile, the woman asks Ariana to go and retrieve something for her from that location. A soft, quick rustle sounds as Ariana offers a polite bow, agreeing to fulfill her mother's request. The Duchess watches Ariana walk away, her gaze lingering on her daughter's retreating form from behind. A close-up reveals the Duchess's sharp, calculating green eyes as she plans her next move. Amidst a hazy red backdrop, the Duchess reflects that Ariana was never welcome and shouldn't have developed her own ambitions.
Turning to a maid, the Duchess declares that it is time for the party to begin.
The scene shifts to the dense, dark greenery of the forest canopy under the bright sunlight.
Ariana walks alone down a winding stone path toward the white lattice pergola in the forest clearing.
A soft, light scuff sounds as Ariana moves with a determined look, her mind focused on the trap ahead. A man waiting at the structure expresses surprise at how quickly Ariana arrived to meet him.
Ariana recognizes the man as Rounder, a noble infamous for his degenerate and rotten personality.
She reflects that he is a status seeker who has manipulated and used countless noblewomen in the past.
When Rounder attempts to close the distance, Ariana firmly commands him to stop where he is. A sudden sharp slice sounds as Rounder grabs her, claiming he has much to gain from playing with her, only to be cut by her hidden blade.
Rounder recoils in pain, clutching a bloody gash on his arm as a sudden sharp hiss sounds. Ariana stands her ground, holding her dagger ready as Rounder realizes she is carrying a dangerous weapon. Pinning Ariana down, Rounder tells her to stop resisting and asks if she realizes how many times he has done this before. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Ariana kicks him away, declaring that this isn't her first time dealing with such a situation either.
Standing over the fallen man, Ariana asks how much the Duchess promised him for this orchestration.
Rounder admits the price was 6 gold coins, to which Ariana offers him double if he leaves quietly.
Rounder laughs at the offer, while Ariana warns him that accepting the gold would be his wisest choice. His expression turns predatory as he wonders if it wouldn't be more profitable to become the husband of the Bronte's second daughter. Nearby, the Duchess hosts a tea party for several noble ladies in an outdoor pavilion. The Duchess suggests that the group take a short walk together. She points toward the forest, claiming the pergola nearby is a lovely sight for the guests to see. A sudden, soft hum sounds as the Duchess's eyes gleam with anticipation of the scandal she has manufactured. Back in the forest, Rounder lunges again, boasting that the noble ladies witnessing their tryst will destroy Ariana's reputation. A sudden, loud crash sounds as Ariana is forced back into the structure of the pergola. Rounder pins her down, vowing to make her his wife immediately, while Ariana thinks he is a fool who will eventually be discarded and killed. Ariana stares at him with cold defiance, promising herself to bite his tongue off if he tries to kiss her. A sudden wet splat sounds as a spray of blood decorates the air. Ariana looks up, stunned, with a splash of fresh blood across her cheek. A silhouette of a man chokes Rounder as a silver-haired figure asks Ariana if she truly wanted the man's touch. The silver-haired man looks at her with piercing red eyes, asking if she had another trick planned for her escape. A sudden heavy thud sounds as the silver-haired man tosses Rounder's lifeless body aside. The newcomer stands tall, his expression neutral as he observes the scene with detachment. Ariana watches him closely, her expression a mix of shock and calculation as she tries to understand his motive. Ariana sits on the table in the quiet pergola, looking down at the dead man lying on the floor. A sudden soft thump sounds as Ariana admits to herself that she is genuinely frightened by the turn of events. The silver-haired man reaches out to touch her face, while Ariana resolves that she cannot allow her fear to show. Looking down at the corpse, the man matter-of-factly confirms that the attacker is dead. He finds it amusing that she didn't faint, while Ariana questions why she would faint over the death of a man who'd tried to harm her. A sudden metallic click sounds as the silver-haired man sheathes his ornate dagger. The silver-haired man questions Ariana's ability to take down a strong opponent with such a simple weapon. Ariana adjusts her hair, explaining the necessity of forward thinking, while the man asks if her plans involve self-sacrifice. With blood on her cheek, Ariana remains silent and focused. Ariana reflects on those who attempt to ruin others. Ariana stands poised among the flowers, appearing entirely unbothered by the carnage. The silver-haired man observes her with piercing intensity. A close-up emphasizes the man's cold, calculated expression. Ariana curtsies, thanking the man for dirtying his hands for her and promising a future reward before departing. A sudden soft rustle sounds as Ariana reaches for something hidden. Leaving the scene, Ariana intentionally lets a cloth item fall to the floor. A delicate embroidered handkerchief remains on the stone tiles. The silver-haired man watches her retreat with an amused smirk. Picking up the fabric, the man notes the name Victoria embroidered on the lace. An attendant named Noah arrives, and a sudden sharp swish sounds as he bows to his lord. The silver-haired man commands Noah to summon an investigator to the estate immediately. He specifies that the official must be from the Empire rather than local forces. Victoria walks through the lush gardens toward the pond. Reading a letter purportedly from her mother, Victoria wonders why she was summoned so urgently to the pergola.
A sudden light rustle sounds as Victoria stops, sensing someone nearby.
Victoria spots her mother and several other noblewomen in the distance. The Duchess looks surprised and alarmed to see her youngest daughter.
Victoria greets her mother, explaining she has arrived as requested.
The Duchess commands Victoria to leave at once and return to her quarters. Confused, Victoria points out that she only came because she received a summons. While Victoria feels uneasy, the other guests suggest she stay and join the party. The Duchess tries to dismiss her, but a guest notes Victoria's reputation for maturity. Forcing a smile, the Duchess wonders what Victoria is doing and hopes the girl is just seeking air. Narrative text emphasizes the need to prioritize the main goal over distractions. The Duchess glares at a guest, hoping the scandal she planned will ruin Ariana's life across the Empire. The group proceeds toward the white curtains of the pergola. The Duchess feels confident that the upcoming scene will permanently alter Ariana's future. She imagines a tearful performance while catching Ariana in a shameful position with Rounder. The Duchess anticipates the total destruction of Ariana's reputation. A sudden soft swish sounds as the Duchess invites everyone inside for a rest. One of the noblewomen stares in shock at the sight inside. A sudden, loud scream sounds through the garden. The guests find a dead man on the floor, sending a woman into a panic. Horrified, the Duchess wonders why the man is dead and where Ariana could be. An authoritative voice announces the arrival of the Imperial Investigation Bureau. A sudden, heavy gallop sounds as uniformed men on horseback arrive. The officials explain they are responding to a report of a suspicious intruder. The Duchess is baffled, questioning who could have made such a report during her party. A guest points toward the gazebo, alerting the officers to the body. The lead investigator notes the victim was stabbed and suffered a broken neck. The Duchess grows increasingly pale, realizing the high-ranking chief has come personally. Sensing disaster, the Duchess fears that her entire plan has completely spiraled out of control. The chief approaches and asks if he may question the Duchess. The Duchess stares at the investigator with a cold, hollow look.
A sudden light snap sounds as the chief reveals the embroidered handkerchief. The chief asks if Victoria is the name of her youngest daughter, holding up the incriminating evidence. The sharp, jagged metal of a bear trap gleams against a dark blood-red background.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as the trap springs amid splatters of red and ween. A narrative box reveals that the speaker didn't expect the day's events to happen so soon.
Ariana stands before her vanity, reflecting on how her mother once treated her like a common servant.
Ariana's hand wipes the dresser as she notes her deep familiarity with her mother's manipulative methods. Wiping her face in the mirror, Ariana realizes the trap was set from the moment the makeup was applied. Looking at her clear reflection, Ariana admits she had already anticipated the danger. Discarding her gown, Ariana calculates she has about 30 minutes before the chaos of the murder discovery begins. Ariana focuses on a sealed letter, determined to obtain the evidence of her mother's past scandals today. She reflects on how her mother used letters from a previous marriage to blackmail the Western Archduke. A sudden, sharp creak sounds as Ariana swings open the doors to a hidden wardrobe. Looking in the mirror in simple attire, Ariana resolves to use those very letters to secure her own freedom.
As twilight fades into evening, the scene prepares for a pivotal transition in the estate.
Ariana searches through the Duchess's lavish closet, looking for something specific.
A sudden, soft swish sounds as she moves past rows of elegant gowns in the dimly lit room.
Ariana successfully finds the hidden letters exchanged between the Western Archduke and her mother. Holding the evidence, she plans to use it as leverage for a deal with the Eastern Archduke. The silver-haired man surprises her, noting her boldness in stealing her mother's clothes during a crisis. Ariana wishes she didn't have to deal with him now, despite him helping her earlier.
Standing amidst white roses, the silver-haired man asks if she is gathering funds for an escape.
Ariana stoically denies any intention of running away while clutching the fur-trimmed cloak. The man calls her a skilled liar and offers his assistance if she truly intends to flee. A sudden light rustle sounds as he pulls the fur hood over Ariana's head. He continues to adjust her hood with a calm, deliberate expression. The man suggests Victoria will be protected and asks if that's why Ariana left the incriminating handkerchief behind.
He stares intensely into her eyes, impressed by how far ahead she has planned her revenge. Ariana remains silent under his heavy gaze, her expression unreadable. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds internally as Ariana wonders how the man discovered her secrets.
The silver-haired man stands with an air of cold superiority. Narrative text explains that Ariana had given her maid Rosaline specific instructions earlier that day. Ariana recalls hiding forged letters, having practiced her mother's handwriting in her previous life. A sudden soft hiss sounds as the red-haired maid spreads rumors that Victoria is the real culprit. Victoria is trapped in a web of suspicion as noblewomen witnessed her near the site of the scandal. Back in the present, Ariana observes the silver-haired man with caution.
A sudden light tap sounds as Ariana looks up in surprise at the man's proximity.
The man looms over her, his presence dominating the small space of the closet. He smiles with a chilling confidence, observing Ariana's reaction. Ariana asks the man if he was the one who summoned the Imperial investigators. A sudden light brush sounds as he reaches out to touch her cheek. He remarks that she finally looks her actual age without the heavy, vulgar makeup. Ariana remains still, her eyes locked on him as his hand lingers on her face.
She questions why His Highness would bestow such a favor on someone he considers useless.
Leaning in close, he asks her if she truly believes she could be of use to him. Ariana counters by suggesting he must believe in her future utility to have helped her.
He offers a faint, enigmatic smile in response to her sharp wit.
Ariana observes his smile, privately noting that it is hauntingly beautiful yet entirely fake.
Standing against a void of red, she reflects that his charming expression is devoid of any sincerity.
Ariana offers to assist him in return for his help, but warns him never to think he can simply use her.
She firmly declares that she has no intention of being manipulated or swayed by his charm.
A sudden light chuckle sounds as the man dismisses her concerns, telling her to think whatever she likes.
The silver-haired man smirks, noting how troublesome things are and that he should head back to the Northern Territory soon. The silver-haired man remarks on her talent for evading answers, while Ariana replies that he praises her too highly, though not as much as himself. Meanwhile, he privately admits he cannot bring himself to leave yet. Looking at Ariana, the man thinks to himself that he wants to see just how far she can go. White roses bloom in the soft garden light. He reflects that the incident at the pagoda was a close call. He considers that if he had returned to the Northern Territory as planned, the outcome would have been far bloodier. Ariana stands stoically beside the silver-haired man in the drawing room. Ariana wonders why the man isn't leaving, noting that while investigators are present, her mother could appear at any moment.
A sudden, soft swish sounds as Ariana announces she is taking her leave, and after the man tells her to go ahead, he calls her attention back to the scarf she is holding.
The silver-haired man asks Ariana if she won't be in a tough spot if she is caught stealing the garment. He warns her that the lady of the house seems to have many eyes and ears in the mansion. Turning back, Ariana claims she merely forgot that he had already returned the scarf to her. A sudden light rustle sounds as Ariana reaches for the fur.
As she walks away, Ariana thinks to herself that she hates him.
She reflects that while she received his help, his inscrutable nature is entirely overwhelming.
Ariana thinks to herself that she doesn't even have enough time to focus all her attention on her mother.
A sudden sharp swish sounds as the man notices something unusual about the scarf.
His red eye widens in surprise as he makes a sudden discovery.
A sudden soft rustle sounds as he finds the hidden letters tucked within the fur. He smiles with chilling confidence, impressed by her hidden evidence. At the Bronte estate, the investigator demands the truth while Victoria insists she is telling it. Terrified, Victoria insists it wasn't her and that she didn't kill the man. The investigator asks why her handkerchief was found at the pagoda if she's never been there, leading Victoria to suggest a maid might have stolen it.
A sudden soft swish sounds as the investigator questions why a maid would steal a handkerchief instead of jewelry.
Victoria realizes something is strange about the day's events, from her mother's sudden note to the murder accusation.
Victoria realizes Ariana is behind the scheme and tells the investigator that her sister sometimes steals her things.
The investigator bows and asks to summon the second young lady of the house.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as a servant arrives with an apology.
The Duchess stands with her back to the camera facing the investigator. The Duchess reports that the maid who went to call for the second daughter has news.
Ariana's bedroom is shown to be completely empty.
The Duchess laments that Ariana must have caused trouble and fled, blaming her own failed parenting for the situation.
Victoria privately hopes Ariana gets what she deserves for framing the beloved youngest daughter for murder.
A narrative box declares that someone has crossed the line.
Ariana walks through the garden, appearing composed despite the growing chaos.
The scene shifts back to the drawing room of the Bronte estate.
The group discusses how Ariana ran away after committing the crime.
The Duchess feigns shame as she wonders what Ariana could possibly do now.
She declares that as long as Ariana is found, Victoria will be safe, and she vows to take responsibility.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as the Duchess orders the guards to find Ariana, only for a maid to interrupt.
The maid informs the Duchess that other servants have already found Ariana. Looking through the laundry lines, they spot Ariana working in the distance.
The investigator and guards approach the laundry area through the garden. The investigator notes that Ariana is the only blue-haired woman with Duke blood in the territory. A thought bubble expresses confusion over why the second daughter of the house is doing laundry.
Ariana is seen barefoot, smiling as she works on the laundry in a large tub with another maid.
The noblewomen whisper in shock about the rumors of Ariana being mistreated like a common maid.
The investigator approaches and calls out to the second young lady.
Ariana looks up with a bright, innocent smile.
A sudden light splash sounds as Ariana asks her mother what brings her to the backyard.
Ariana asks her mother if there is anything else she needs her to do. Her mother stares at her with a cold, sharp gaze as she says her name.
A sudden, sharp vree sounds as her mother shouts her name in a fury.
The investigator asks where she has been today, and Ariana asks him for clarification.
Ariana claims she was doing laundry with her maid the entire time.
The investigator admits that the massive amount of laundry makes her alibi believable.
A sudden, light snick sounds as the investigator turns his attention toward the third young lady. Victoria stares in horror at the cold metal of the handcuffs held before her.
The Duchess demands to know how they dare handcuff a daughter of the Bronte house. The investigator cites physical evidence and eyewitness testimony while Victoria protests based on her status. The Emperor has ordered a strict murder investigation and the arrest of anyone obstructing it.
A sudden light rustle sounds as the investigator warns the Duchess to step back.
The investigator looks up as a sudden booming shout demands an explanation.
A sudden firm step sounds as Duke Bronte makes his imposing entrance into the garden.
Duke Bronte demands to know the cause of the commotion occurring in his duchy.
The investigator explains Victoria is a person of interest, shocking the confused Duke.
Whispers fill the air as the noblewomen watch the Duke approach the scene.
Inner turmoil reveals a realization that Rachel has completely ruined everything.
A sudden, sharp twitch sounds as the Duke struggles to maintain his composure.
The Duke realizes that he cannot intervene with so many noble witnesses present.
He urges Victoria to answer truthfully so she can be released from custody quickly.
A sudden light sob sounds as Victoria cries out for her father's help.
A sudden sharp click sounds as the Duke tells her to act like a lady.
Victoria stands trembling in her shackles, surrounded by an aura of absolute despair.
The Duke promises a full investigation as the guards lead Victoria away.
In the reflection of her eye, her parents stand helpless as she is taken.
Victoria reflects that the Duke would have done anything to save Helena instead.
She laments that he would have never allowed Helena to be taken away.
Victoria looks back one last time as she is escorted into custody. The bright sun shines over the quiet and empty garden.
Ariana's blue hair flows beautifully as she finds a moment of peace. She wears a brilliant, triumphant smile as her plan finally unfolds.
Victoria seethes with rage, cursing Ariana's name from the depths of her soul.
A sudden light flop sounds as Ariana collapses onto her bed in exhaustion.
Ariana hides her face under the covers, finally able to rest in private.
Ariana reflects on how her maid expertly planted alibi comments throughout the entire morning. The massive pile of laundry serves as the perfect physical proof for her whereabouts. Narrative text explains that the maid never questioned the strange orders she was given.
The red-haired maid offers a loyal, knowing smile as she fulfills her duties.
Ariana lies among white roses, admiring her maid's unwavering and silent loyalty.
A sudden light rustle sounds as Ariana notes that Victoria's reputation is now ruined.
She admits that the Northern Duke's assistance was crucial to her success today.
Ariana reflects on the letters she lost because the Northern Duke intervened.
She knows she must obtain those letters before Rachel leaves for the capital.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Ariana realizes she needs proof of her parentage.
A sudden soft sigh sounds as Ariana worries about her future reception.
A sudden light rip sounds as she determines she cannot arrive empty-handed.
Ariana recalls the pain of being treated like a nuisance her entire life.
She refuses to enter the Eastern Territory and face the same mistreatment again.
As Victoria returns, the family will be too distracted by rumors to stop her.
Ariana considers a final infiltration of Rachel's room to achieve her goal.
The blue-haired girl looks determined.
A sudden sharp thud sounds 5 days later as a trainer demands Ariana repeat her exercises.
The investigator informs Victoria that Ariana was confirmed to be doing laundry with a maid all morning.
Victoria cries out that false accusations are difficult to undo and insists that Ariana is the culprit. A sudden light sob sounds as the interrogation continues in the quiet, dimly lit room.
Victoria wonders if she has been abandoned after being held for so many days.
She fears her parents replaced her with Helena or chosen Ariana's intelligence over her own. Victoria cringes in a dark void, asking herself what she should do now.
Narrative text details rumors spreading through the capital about the Duchess hiring thugs to ruin Ariana.
Rumors suggest Victoria was violated and killed the man, while Ariana suffers terrible abuse.
Ariana is seen huddled in a dark corner of a cell. Narrative text explains that Rachel has no one left to rely on but her father.
The Duchess looks at a letter with an expression of pure rage. The letter contains a cold, one-line rejection telling her not to visit.
A sudden sharp vree sounds as Rachel seethes at the heartless response to her trouble.
The Duke and Rachel argue over Joyce's reaction and her failure to save Victoria.
The Duke shouts that Rachel's needless meddling caused this entire disaster.
Rachel screams that it is all Ariana's fault, not hers.
A sudden, heavy smash sounds as a vase is shattered against the furniture.
A sudden light rustle sounds as Rachel grips her sleeve in fury. Rachel blames Ariana for the treatment she and Victoria are currently receiving.
A text box declares Ariana is no longer useful for marriage negotiations.
Rachel crouches amidst the glass shards, wishing Ariana had never been born.
A sudden light clink sounds as Rachel picks up a piece of broken glass.
Rachel decides that Ariana's death would not be a loss at this point.
Ariana gazes out her window at the falling snow.
Ariana notes that it is snowing unusually late in March.
Ariana asks about the situation outside, and Rosalind reports crowds are demanding the truth.
Rosalind explains that Victoria's release seems unlikely, which Ariana acknowledges calmly.
The red-haired maid looks on.
Ariana realizes that someone is intentionally fueling the rumors to worsen her family's situation. She suspects the Northern Duke is the one behind the extra assistance. Ariana asks Rosalind to obtain another dagger for her.
Rosalind observes that Ariana is living an incredibly fierce life.
The two women exchange knowing smiles amidst a backdrop of white flowers. Ariana turns her back to the maid to look outside again.
A sudden light rustle sounds as Ariana confirms her resolve to live fiercely.
She envisions her sister and mother suffering the same despair they once inflicted.
A sudden quick tap sounds as Ariana touches the window gang.
She thinks that their current suffering is still not enough. A reflection shows a noose around Ariana's neck, representing her past life.
Ariana reflects on her previous execution and the lack of mercy she received compared to her family.
She vows to make them experience the exact same hell she once walked.
Narrative text emphasizes her dark resolve. She is willing to return to hell herself to achieve their complete destruction.
A sudden soft swish sounds as she moves away from the window.
Ariana considers the current silence of the Western Lord to be strange.
She notes that Victoria should have been released by her father days ago.
Ariana questions why the Western Lord hasn't taken any action yet.
A grand castle with red-tiled spires towers into the sky as a voice notes that word should have been sent.
Rodion Oblin, the Western Lord, stands with a somber and weary expression. The Northern Lord sits with an air of cold confidence and a slight smirk. A close-up reveals the Northern Lord's piercing red eyes and his self-assured smile. The Western Lord reflects on the unfortunate timing of this visit while his granddaughter remains imprisoned for a murder she didn't commit.
He realizes he must be cautious as he cannot afford to treat the mysterious Northern Lord poorly. The Northern Lord points out that news of his arrival has likely already spread throughout the entire Western Territory.
He retorts that if he is considered insolent, then the Western Lord must be as well for his own short words.
A sudden, sharp clink sounds as a teacup is set down, and the Western Lord asks what brought him all this way.
Narrative text explains that when Cyrus was 5, his parents were killed on the battlefield and their names were shamed. Young Cyrus barely escaped an assassination attempt by treacherous retainers thanks to a loyal subordinate's ultimate sacrifice.
In the wake of the tragedy, the Northern Territory was consumed by ruthless power struggles.
Years later, at the age of 14, Cyrus returned at the head of a formidable knight order.
He successfully pacified the internal chaos and reclaimed his rightful title as the Northern Lord.
The Western Lord gazes at the young man, wondering what kind of darkness he might be hiding in his heart.
He admits to himself that even he cannot be certain of the Northern Lord's true intentions.
Taking a slow sip of tea, the Western Lord suspects that Cyrus did not travel this far without a specific reason.
He wonders if the young man has finally uncovered the truth regarding the death of his parents.
Cyrus reflects on the 15 long years that have passed since he received the news of his parents' demise.
Standing with his younger self, Cyrus notes that he has finally reached this critical turning point.
He decides he cannot reveal his true self yet, hoping the Western Lord will make a mistake out of growing impatience. Cyrus believes that if he remains for a few days, the Western Lord will be too wary to leave his post.
He smirks, knowing the older man is desperate to rescue his granddaughter from her prison cell.
Several dark wine bottles lie abandoned in the grass near a wooden crate.
A sudden, light thud sounds as a black-haired man arrives to greet the blonde woman who is complaining about being bored.
Noah greets Isaac with an excited smile, telling him not to smile so charmingly.
Isaac asks if she is afraid of falling for him, while she suggests having a drink since their master is busy.
Isaac worries about the consequences if a man named Louis catches them drinking on the job.
Noah assures him that Louis will be occupied with the second daughter for quite some time.
Ariana calmly eats her meal while her maid stands loyally by her side.
Noah asks Isaac if he genuinely believes that the second daughter will eventually become the Duchess.
Isaac suggests that His Highness is more likely to use her for whatever she is worth and simply enjoy the process.
A sudden, light snap sounds as Isaac argues that their prince is not the type to go this far for just anyone.
He finds it strange that the prince would spend so many days on someone based solely on their usefulness.
This is especially true given that the prince has a deep and long-standing hatred for the Western Duke.
Noah asks for the meaning behind his words as she begins to pour a drink from a dark bottle.
Noah and Isaac imagine a grand wedding, declaring that Ariana is destined to be the future Northern Duchess.
A sudden light gulp sounds as Isaac drinks while Noah cheers him on for having the right spirit.
Noah questions if Ariana actually likes their lord, noting that she seemed unhappy even when he was nearby.
1 week after Victoria's arrest, a sudden, sharp slap sounds as the Duchess strikes a trembling maid.
The Duchess reminds the maid of her sick parents and young siblings, telling her what must be done to save them.
A tearful reflection in an eye shows a hand gripping a small ornate bottle of poisons.
A somber and oppressive purple atmosphere fills the silent hallway.
The exterior of a quiet stone building stands under a clear blue sky. A sudden heavy step sounds as a figure moves away from a written confession stating they killed the man.
An investigator reads the note where the writer claims they could not live with the guilt of framing Lady Victoria. The investigator confirms the handwriting matches the maid who confessed before taking her own life. Looking out from behind the bars of a window, the investigator notes the confession was clearly made under extreme duress.
A sudden light rattle sounds as a white carriage departs, and the investigator expresses pity for the maid who died. Victoria huddles alone inside the carriage, appearing exhausted and broken after her ordeal.
Jacob notes the rumors of an innocent. Jacob expresses fear of public ridicule, but Rachel believes the scandal will fade once they arrive at the Empire.
Writing a letter, Rachel plans for her children to regain status through success in imperial high society.
Helena offers a faint, knowing smile.
Jacob questions if their plan will gain them favor, but Rachel confidently tells him to trust her.
Rachel insists on bringing Ariana along to avoid further negative rumors about the family.
A surge of repressed anger radiates from the Duchess as she prepares for the journey.
Dark intentions swirl as Rachel plans to place her daughter in a seemingly luxurious carriage. Activity buzzes around the mansion as several carriages are prepared for the long trip.
Helena wonders why Ariana is being included in the group traveling to the capital. Ariana realizes the family is trying to distance themselves from the Western Territories rumors.
She remains stoic as the carriage begins its journey.
The carriage wheels clatter as the horses pull the procession through the massive estate gates.
Ariana looks back with a cold gaze, reflecting on her long years in the mansion.
She peers through the bars of her carriage window at the bright, open sky.
A vision depicts Ariana as a caged angel longing for freedom under the sun's rays.
Her hand touches the glass as she recognizes that things are about to change.
In a symbolic flight, Ariana envisions herself soaring through the clouds without a cage. She declares that she feels no sense of regret regarding her departure.
Ariana regrets not intercepting Rachel's letter and knows she must prevent the Duke from abandoning her.
She is frustrated by the timing of the Northern Lord's sudden appearance in her life.
Ariana asks Rosalind how long the journey to the capital will take.
Rosalind reassures her that they have more than enough time to reach their destination.
A close-up of the maid's eyes reveals a sudden, sharp change in her demeanor.
Ariana realizes that Rosalind is far more than just a typical household maid.
Rosalind offers a gentle, subtle smile.
Ariana watches the passing landscape with quiet intensity.
Noticing the excessive luxury of the carriage, Ariana suspects her family has planned a trick.
She asks Rosalind if she is capable of defending herself if trouble arises.
Rosalind looks serene against a backdrop of blooming roses.
Ariana presses the maid, asking again if she can truly protect herself.
Standing tall, Rosalind declares that she is capable of protecting both herself and her lady.
The itinerary outlines their route toward the Weifun Mountains and a nearby village.
The rugged peaks of the Weifun Mountains loom in the distance.
Ariana correctly guesses the maid was assigned only to provide the family with a convenient excuse later.
She anticipates that the Duchess is actively plotting to have her killed during the journey.
Rachel's cold expression reflects her secret command to let Ariana perish if an incident occurs.
Rosalind questions how Ariana will survive with only a small knife, but Ariana remains resolute.
Drawing a hidden blade, Ariana confirms that she has already prepared a plan of her own. She grips the ornate dagger, ready for whatever dangers lie ahead.
The carriages wind through a narrow, forested mountain path under the afternoon sun.
Ariana recalls crossing these same mountains multiple times in her previous life on royal orders.
She prepares herself, knowing that familiarity and composure are the keys to her survival.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, heavy stop sounding as the carriage jolts.
Ariana realizes the coachman has abandoned them, leaving the carriage defenseless in the woods.
Rosalind's expression hardens as she senses approaching danger. A group of armed bandits closes in on the stationary carriage with a predatory glint in their eyes.
A sudden, sharp shing sounds as a large weapon is drawn from its hiding place.
Rosalind brandishes a massive broadsword and tells Ariana to stay close behind her.
Ariana stares in total disbelief at the formidable warrior her maid has suddenly become.
Armed bandits batter the carriage door, shouting for the woman inside to come out and stop making things difficult.
Amidst the chaos, Ariana tells her maid that there is no time for questions and commands her to go out and turn left, and the red-haired maid says she understands. A sudden, heavy sounds as the red-haired maid kicks a bandit backward with surprising force.
As another man is sent reeling by her skill, he cries out in utter shock.
The white carriage sits abandoned on the forest path, surrounded by the fallen bodies of several bandits.
The red-haired maid tells Ariana that there are many enemies and says she will clear a path, so the blue-haired woman must stay close behind her, and Ariana agrees.
A sudden, sharp arg and sound as the maid cuts through the bandits with her sword, protecting her lady.
The bandits are stunned by her prowess, noting that she is no ordinary maid as blood splatters the air and they shout to get her.
In another carriage, the Duke asks Rachel if their plan will truly be okay this time.
Rachel smiles coldly, stating that bandits are common in the area and they simply need to play the role of grieving parents who lost their daughter.
She believes this tragedy will finally grant them the opportunity to catch the Empress's eye.
She is determined to make her family the center of the Empire's social scene through this deception. Back in the forest, the bandits shout to get the two women as Ariana and the maid sprint for their lives. A sudden, sharp sounds as Ariana gasps that she is completely out of breath. The young woman stumbles, her breath catching as she struggles to keep up.
A bandit looms over Ariana, declaring that he has finally caught her.
Horrified, the red-haired maid screams out for her lady.
A sudden heavy sounds as the maid continues her desperate fight to reach Ariana. Dark blood splatters across the scene as the battle grows more violent.
The maid stands protectively in front of Ariana, her sword ready as she faces the remaining attackers.
She tells Ariana to run immediately, and the blue-haired woman agrees to flee.
A volley of arrows whistles through the air toward the fleeing pair.
The bandits shout to hit them as one of the arrows finds its mark, drawing blood.
A sudden, sharp sounds as Rosalind falls to the ground and Ariana cries out her name in terror.
A hand reaches out as the situation turns dire.
Rosalind pulls the arrow from her leg and tells Ariana to go on to where she needs to be, telling her not to worry.
Ariana stares in disbelief, wondering how she could possibly leave her loyal friend behind.
Rosalind remains firm, reminding her lady that she has a vital task that must be completed.
A moment of agonizing silence passes between them.
Ariana looks back one last time before making a difficult choice. She turns and flees into the woods alone.
Her footsteps echo as she runs away from the bloody scene.
Ariana laments her own weakness, wishing she were strong enough to have stayed.
Tears of frustration and pain fill her eyes as she continues her escape.
She reaches the edge of a high cliff, the ground dropping away into the mist. Standing on the precipice, Ariana gazes out at the vast landscape below.
A bandit catches up and laughs, mockingly asking if she ran all this way just to find a place to die, and declaring she is finally worth the money.
Ariana reflects on how the enemies in her past life were true bandits as well.
In her previous life, she chose to leap from the cliff rather than be captured and defiled. She recalls falling onto a narrow ledge just below the top where, despite her injuries, she could survive by feigning death.
She believes that if she survives now, she can buy herself the time she needs to deal with Rachel's schemes.
A sudden, light tisk sounds as a man insists that he was ordered to kill her and bring back proof, not sell her.
Ariana looks over the edge, calculating her chances in the present.
She recalls the immense luck she had during her first life's ordeal.
The wind whips through her blue hair as she stands at the brink.
Ariana wonders if fate will be as kind to her this time as it was before.
A sudden light thud sounds as a man stands over a fallen body and warns Ariana that she will fall if she keeps standing so dangerously.
A charming smile plays across the face of the mysterious newcomer.
Cyrus, the silver-haired northern lord, stands before her in a dark red uniform, his sword drawn.
He gazes at Ariana with a confident smirk, his presence shifting the entire atmosphere of the forest.
Ariana looks back with dessert.
The blue-haired woman reminds the man they never made a promise. Cyrus asks if she intended to kill herself if he hadn't arrived.
He notes that she had already calculated her next move.
The silver-haired man warns that a bad fall would mean certain death.
Ariana accepts that dying is simply a risk she is willing to take.
She states that failure would only mean her luck has finally run out.
Cyrus remarks that she truly seems to have no fear.
He notes her injury, but Ariana dismisses the pain as nothing.
Ariana rejects his ideas about honor and prepares to step off the ledge.
A sudden reach stops her from falling.
His eyes glow with a chilling, magical intensity.
Shards of sharp ice erupt around the blue-haired woman.
The silver-haired man focuses his intense ruby gaze.
Her feet dangle dangerously over the cliff's edge.
He stabilizes her by summoning massive pillars of glacier.
Shimmering frozen shards drift through the afternoon air.
Cyrus calls her careless as Ariana offers her thicks.
He questions if she is even human, while she retorts that he is the one who seems inhuman.
Ariana looks toward the forest where the battle occurred.
She searches the quiet woods and worries for her maid's survival.
Ariana demands that the silver-haired prince let her go.
He mocks her sentimental nature despite the venom in her heart.
They argue over whether worrying about a mere servant will hinder her goals.
Ariana's expression remains cold and resolute.
She explains that her path of revenge won't involve harming those who are uninvolved.
He mocks her soft thoughts and claims she'll never be able to become a beast. Ariana ignores his words and pushes through the brush to search for Rosalind. The blue-haired woman stops suddenly as the red-haired maid appears. Rosalind stands before her lady, her dress drenched in dark blood.
Ariana notes her injuries, but the maid clarifies that the blood belongs to her enemies.
The red-haired woman asks for a brief moment of her lady's time. A sharp shing sounds as Rosalind drives her heavy blade into the soil.
A soft voice speaks out to address the Northern Lord. Rosalind drops to one knee and bows deeply before the duke.
Ariana watches the interaction with a look of complete bewilderment.
The silver-haired man admits that he was careless.
Ariana reels as a new realization begins to take shape.
She argues that the maid was only injured while trying to protect her.
Cyrus mockingly questions the warrior's fitness to lead the Black Knights.
Ariana is stunned to learn that her maid is actually a military captain.
The duke reveals that her real name is Louis.
Ariana stands alone in the forest as the truth sinks in.
She finally understands the secret game that has been played around her.
She recalls the clever and unusually efficient service of her new maid.
She realizes the maid was a spy planted by the Northern Duke for his own ends.
Louis stands tall and armored, her identity as a warrior fully exposed. Ariana's eyes narrow as she processes this ultimate betrayal.
She reflects on the fact that no one helps another without a hidden reason.
Ariana asserts that she already had a plan of her own and didn't need their interference.
Ariana acknowledges his help and promises to assist the Duke in the future.
Cyrus says he will excuse himself as Ariana and Louis wait for his next move.
A sudden sharp sheeing sounds as Ariana calls out for him to wait.
Cyrus warns that the sunset brings dangerous mountain beasts her plans might not stop.
A sudden heavy sounds as the young woman reflects on the approaching danger.
Ariana notes that Rachel will report her missing to the guards when she reaches the city.
She explains that a cave halfway down the cliff connects to the other side of the range.
Cyrus notes her impressive knowledge of the local geography despite her secluded life.
Ariana clarifies that her expertise comes from years of planning her eventual escape.
The silver-haired man narrows his red eyes at her explanation.
Cyrus orders Louis to take Ariana down the cliff first, and the maid complies immediately.
Ariana worries about the maid's injury while Cyrus questions her constant thoughts of death.
Cyrus commands Louis to act while Ariana insists she can survive the jump herself.
A sudden sharp swish sounds as the maid apologizes and grabs her lady.
Louis effortlessly lifts the blue-haired woman into a secure princess carry. Ariana cries out in shock at being suddenly hoisted into the air by her maid. They descend the cliff face together using a long, sturdy rope.
Ariana gasps as the ground falls away beneath them during their rapid descent. The group makes their way down the treacherous rock face into the shadows.
A sudden light thud sounds as the maid sets Ariana safely on a rocky ledge. Ariana stands in stunned silence as she processes the sudden move. Cyrus directs the group into the dark cave while Ariana feels dizzy from the height. The trio enters a cavern illuminated by bioluminescent flora and glowing insects.
Cyrus observes her composure in the dark, and she admits she has no fear of it.
The silver-haired man acknowledges her unique lack of fear toward the darkness.
He leans in and curiously asks what truly scares a woman like her. Ariana states she currently fears the Duke most, and he creates a sudden bright ping sounding. Cyrus notes the irony of her fear despite his constant efforts to help her.
Ariana feels burdened by her debt, but the Duke accuses her of being a liar.
She reflects on her easing tension now that she is free from Rachel's influence.
Cyrus suddenly asks about the state of her feet, catching Ariana off guard.
Ariana claims her bare, scratched feet are fine despite the visible injuries. Cyrus sighs that she is also quite skilled at telling unnecessary lies. The Duke pulls her into his arms amidst a flurry of falling petals.
Cyrus commands her to get some rest as Ariana stares up at him in surprise. Ariana wonders why the silver-haired man's actions are always so completely unpredictable.
A look of exhaustion crosses her face as she begins to succumb to fatigue.
Cyrus questions her desire to be let go, while Ariana tells him not to waste his precious strength on her.
Cyrus mocks her sudden flustered state, noting she didn't even flinch at corpses.
Louis watches in disbelief, having never seen her master treat a woman this way.
The maid realizes her lord becomes quite foolish when he truly adores someone.
Cyrus gently covers Ariana's eyes and tells her that she looks very tired.
Ariana tries to protest one last time before his touch lulls her to sleep.
The blue-haired woman finally drifts off into a deep sleep in his protective embrace.
A scene of ornate lace and flowers marks a quiet transition in the story.
Ariana blinks her eyes open as she begins to wake in the dim light.
The young woman looks around the unfamiliar cave and wonders where she is.
She spots a tranquil cave lake and questions how she arrived at this peaceful spot.
Ariana realizes with embarrassment that she actually fell asleep while being carried by Cyrus.
Cyrus reveals she has been asleep for 3 hours as he prepares a tray. Cyrus offers a plate of meat skewers to Ariana, casually mentioning he didn't poison them.
The blue-haired woman accepts the food and offers a quiet thank you.
Ariana asks where he found a plate in the wild, and Cyrus credits Louis' thorough preparation.
She finds the meal delicious and asks for its source. Cyrus smiles and remarks that he gathered some fresh meat earlier in the afternoon.
A sudden sharp ah sounds as Ariana imagines the source being the bandits he defeated.
Cyrus laughs off her horrified expression and claims he was only joking.
He asks if she's angry, while Ariana finds his mischievous streak irritating. Ariana says she can't be angry at her savior, but Cyrus notes she looks like she wants to punch him.
Cyrus clarifies the meat was hunted outside, and Ariana tries to keep her temper under control.
He asks about her feet, and Ariana notices the bandages and a lack of pain from a special ointment.
The silver-haired man smiles and takes credit for treating her wounds himself.
Ariana looks on in stunned shock at the thought of him touching her feet while she slept.
Cyrus admits he was kidding again, noting the impropriety of touching an unmarried woman's feet.
Ariana expresses her genuine relief upon learning that it was actually Louis who treated her. When asked if she's angry again, she gives a sharp, loud refusal.
The blue-haired woman turns her head away enough.
Ariana reflects on how difficult it is to stay composed whenever she is around him.
The scene lingers on the Duke's hand resting near his sheathed sword. Cyrus asks about her destination, and Ariana reveals her plan to travel east and seek out the Eastern Duke. Cyrus reassures her that the Eastern Duke will welcome her with open arms.
He insists she trust him, promising that she won't be cast out from the Eastern Castle.
Ariana listens to his reassurances with a skeptical but quiet gaze.
She looks him in the eye and coldly states that she trusts absolutely no one.
Cyrus pokes her forehead and suggests that she should at least place her trust in herself.
The silver-haired man smiles warmly at her. Ariana looks away, blushing slightly as she covers her face.
She wonders if acting differently in her past life would have earned her the love she lacked.
Ariana recalls the dagger-wielding Rachel and realizes that her mother's murderous intent was always there.
She views the Eastern Duke as another threat she must navigate by acting both clever and foolish.
She considers Cyrus relatively easy to handle because he doesn't seem to find her suspicious. A darker thought crosses her mind, wondering if he is actually guarding against her every move. Ariana wonders if his dim-witted persona is actually a front for his true vigilance.
Louis arrives at the lakeside carrying a massive fish and announces her return.
The red-haired warrior asks the Duchess if she wants the fish roasted or boiled.
Ariana tries to correct her title, but Louis remains persistent in her address.
Ariana asks Cyrus to make the maid stop, but he claims ignorance on the matter.
Cyrus refuses to scold Louis, explaining he doesn't care about the titles his subordinates use.
Ariana holds back her frustration, deciding not to waste time on such trivialities.
She declares her intent to leave, but Cyrus questions why she is in such a hurry.
Louis kneels by the fire and explains the coachman was already dead when she found him.
Ariana realizes her absence and the dead driver will lead everyone to believe she was kidnapped. She notes that a disappearance is the most likely conclusion for the guards.
Cyrus reaches out and grabs her chin in a sudden, firm gesture.
He tilts her face up and asks again what the urgency in her plan is for.
Ariana answers that if her death is confirmed, a funeral will be held.
Cyrus notes that vicious high society women would love the attention of a family tragedy.
He asks if Rachel would really exploit her daughter's death for her own gain.
Ariana looks away and reveals that her mother wanted her dead even before birth. She states that surviving at all was a victory against her mother's hatred.
Ariana reflects on her mother's hatred.
Cyrus watches her with a piercing gaze.
He remains silent in the satires.
Ariana offers a forced smile, but Cyrus finds it unlike the expression he truly desired.
He longs for her genuine smile.
Louis's hand touches his shoulder with a sudden soft top sounding.
The maid suggests that it would be best for her lord to comfort the lady.
Cyrus wonders how he's supposed to offer comfort. He recalls the last time he felt comforted. A memory of a warm embrace surfaces. He finds solace in the recollection.
Cyrus returns to the present moment.
Ariana explains that her disappearance won't suit her plans because traveling while her daughter is missing would only bring criticism upon her mother.
She insists that she must find a way out of the Western Territory before she is caught.
Ariana asks why he is standing like that and if he's unwell as a bird lets out a sudden, quick chirp sounding.
Cyrus asks if she knows what warriors consider the most important thing on a battlefield.
He clarifies that the key is not their weapon, but sleep.
He pokes her forehead and explains that a lack of rest causes a person to lose their mind.
Cyrus asks Louis to confirm his claim, and the kneeling maid agrees immediately.
Ariana realizes that he was observing her fatigue all along. Cyrus lifts her up and questions how far she planned to run in such a weary state.
She is silent as he carries her. He gently lowers her and commands her to finally get some sleep. She is stunned by his proximity.
Ariana admits the Duke is right and realizes her haste would have caused her to collapse.
She feels bothered by the thought of sleeping near him, especially given his identity.
She decides she must cast aside her reputation and previous resolve to focus on resting.
Ariana feels her determination crumbling as she finally begins to succumb to her exhaustion. The woman falls into deep sleep.
Ariana wakes up and wonders why her surroundings feel so unexpectedly soft.
She recognizes a familiar scent from somewhere.
She recalls being held by the man once before.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as she realizes her situation. She sits up in a panic.
Ariana notes that the Duke spread out leaves and used his cloak to make a bed for her.
She is mortified that she was burying her nose in his belongings while she slept.
Ariana notes the darkness and wonders where everyone else has gone.
She investigates the silent cave. A lake glimmers in the darkness.
Seeing no one around, she decides to take the chance to wash herself in the lake.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as she realizes she is not Lung.
She spots him in the water. His muscular back is clearly visible.
He washes himself in the wake.
She is frozen Pevasite. Her eyes widen in shock. Cyrus turns his head slightly and offers a mischievous smirk.
The water drips down his chest.
She looks away with a blush. Cyrus teasingly warns that she is going to start drooling if she continues to stare.
Ariana flushes as she scolds herself for blankly staring at a man's bare body.
The blue-haired woman desperately tries to calm her racing heart while the Duke stands in the lake. Cyrus begins to pull on his trousers as Ariana offers a flustered confirmation.
The silver-haired man notes she likely came to wash up and promises to look away. Ariana defensively retorts that she has no interest in watching him bathe either.
Cyrus leans in with a smirk and asks if his presence is bothering her.
Ariana looks away, claiming the water is too cold while feeling anxious about his persistent kindness.
The Duke turns to walk away with a sudden, quick splash sounding.
Ariana thanks him for the rest but declares her intent to leave immediately.
Cyrus stops her, pointing out that a massive downpour has started outside.
Ariana realizes the timing of the storm aligns with the common seasonal rains.
Cyrus advises her to stay one more day since the mountain roads are now dangerous.
The young woman reluctantly agrees that staying is the better plan.
Ariana feels frustrated as her escape from the Western Territory keeps getting postponed. A view of the cave entrance reveals the bright, overcast sky outside.
Louis stands outside the cave with blood staining her orange dress and a sword in hand.
The sun begins to peek through the thick clouds above.
The red-haired warrior gazes out over the lush green mountainside.
Louis looks surprised as she hears someone calling out to her. A voice from a distance announces that they have finally located Louis.
A recruitment notice for translators and editors is displayed over a dark background.
The subordinates approach as a sudden, quick shout sounding.
A blonde man in a brown cloak asks when the Duke and the princess will emerge.
A black-haired subordinate explains that the Lord needs more time to win the princess's heart. Louis looks skeptical as she learns the Duke is still pursuing the lady's affection.
The black-haired man jokes that Duke Hearn won't be angry if he returns with the princess.
A letter mentions the princess has improved, though her injury will likely leave a scar. A hand points toward the distant mountain peaks.
The blonde knight remarks that his master will be very pleased with the news.
Louis questions if Cyrus is truly that smitten with their best. The men continue their conversation while walking through the forest.
Louis reveals that the Duke gathered leaves with his own hands to make a bed for her. The two subordinates share a stunned, silent look.
The men burst into laughter, finding the idea of their lord preparing a bed to be a hilarious joke.
Louis huffs in annoyance as the men refuse to believe her account. The group sits around a stone table in the cave to share a meal of roasted fish.
Ariana reflects on the fact that she has never spent this much time with another person.
She recalls her past lives and how she never shared 3 daily meals with anyone.
Ariana worries that the Northern Duke is secretly waiting for her to make a mistake.
Only fish bones remain on the plates as a sudden, soft scrape sounding.
Louis tells Ariana she shouldn't be cleaning, but Ariana insists she is used to such work.
The maid tells her to become unaccustomed to labor and protect her precious hands. Ariana gazes off with a somber expression.
The two women stand in a quiet moment of mutual respect.
Ariana reminds herself to stay vigilant against the Eastern Duke's potential schemes. The stack of clean plates is held firmly in someone's cans. A soft light illuminates a patch of the stone floor.
Ariana notices the Duke didn't eat much and asks Louis about his appetite.
Louis teases her, claiming the Duke is full just from the joy of watching Ariana eat. Ariana reacts with wide-eyed shock at the maid's mischievous claim. Ariana covers her mouth as her face flushes with a deep, embarrassed blush.
The maid cleans a plate while explaining that a trusted person manages the estate during the Lord's absence.
Louis confirms her claim, mentioning that she is capable of using a bit of magic herself.
Ariana watches the red-haired woman with a look of quiet curiosity.
A small, brilliant orb of light forms in the center of the maid's palm. Louis presents the magical glow to the princess as a sudden, quick spark sounding. Ariana stares at the light in awe, while Louis praises her lord's magic as the most powerful. Ariana feels a pang of envy, realizing how strong the maid is to possess such magical abilities.
The young woman looks toward the maid with a sudden, sharp realization.
Ariana wonders internally if she too can become strong enough to protect herself. Louis looks stunned as she concludes the princess must be developing feelings for the Duke. The maid excitedly grabs Ariana's hands and offers to have the Duke personally instruct her.
Ariana reacts with confusion while the maid's face turns bright red with excitement. Cyrus approaches the women and asks if the princess truly desires to become strong.
Ariana looks up at the towering Duke, doubting any knight would sincerely protect an outsider like her.
She reflects on how subjects mirror the heart of their ruler as a sudden, soft flutter sounding. Ariana recalls the cold indifference of the Eastern Duke and realizes his people would never care for her.
Cyrus watches her with a calm, expectant gaze.
The Duke agrees to her request, leaving Ariana momentarily stunned by his sudden compliance.
Cyrus looms behind her as he prepares to show her what he means.
He places a dagger in her hands, promising to teach her the basics of self-defense.
A voice screams in fury about a broken promise.
A man shouts in rage, his face contorted with anger.
The man berates Rachel for her failed plan, pointing out they haven't found a body to confirm her death. The blonde daughter complains about missing the social season and demands her mother solve the mess.
Rachel storms out and slams the door with a sudden loud bang sounding.
Rachel wonders how a powerless child could possibly escape a professional mercenary.
A memory of a once happy family surfaces in a moment of bitter reflection. The image of a united family shatters like glass, symbolizing their descent into chaos.
Rachel clenches her fist, drowning in the question of why her plans went so horribly wrong.
Wisps of purple energy swirl through the air.
A dark-haired knight introduces himself as Noah, the vice captain of the Black Knights.
Ariana stands before them in her dark, ornate gown. Ariana recognizes the name of Isaac Perrin, the continent's most famous alchemist. The blonde knight offers a warm greeting, though Ariana finds his beauty exceeds the rumors.
Noah explains they must travel off-road and asks if the princess can ride a horse. Ariana looks at Cyrus and questions if they were supposed to part ways at this point. Cyrus mounts his black stallion as a sudden, sharp whinny sounding.
The Duke looks down at her with a confident, knowing smile.
Ariana expresses her gratitude, but the Duke wonders if she remembers his previous words.
He leans in close and tells her she has her whole life to repay him.
The group prepares to set out into the forest.
The two knights gape in shock as a sudden quick zap sounding.
An announcement for recruitment is displayed over a dark background. Louis points out a white horse and invites the lady to mount it.
Cyrus reaches out to offer assistance to the princess.
Ariana expertly mounts the horse on her own as a sudden soft rustle sounding.
She reflects on her past life's training, confident that she won't slow the group down.
Isaac teases her about whining, while the other knight jokes about crying first.
Leaves fall gently through the air as the group moves deeper into the woods. Horses gallop along the path as a sudden, loud clatter sounding.
The rhythm of the journey is captured by a sudden, quick clatter sounding.
Ariana marvels at their incredible speed while riding her white horse as a sudden, sharp clatter sounding.
The blue-haired woman feels as though she is flying as they race forward as a sudden, heavy clatter sounding.
Cyrus reflects that navigating rough roads depends equally on the horse's ability and the rider's skill, concluding he is fortunate to be so capable.
The knights observe the pair from a distance as they ride through the woods.
Isaac observes that His Highness is riding slowly, while his companion suggests it is out of consideration for the princess.
Isaac smiles and confirms the observation amidst a bubbly pink background.
A text box announces it is break time as the group stops by a river, where Isaac approaches Ariana and notes she must be exhausted.
Isaac offers an ointment for scars and a potion for stamina, but Ariana politely declines, thinking she wishes to avoid further debt to the Duke.
The alchemist looks at the blue-haired woman and claims he is quite different from His Highness.
Isaac winks and introduces himself, noting that while the Duke is generous, he seems particularly so only when it comes to the lady. Cyrus places a hand on Isaac's shoulder as a sudden soft tap sounding, telling Ariana to take the medicine since it isn't poisoned.
Cyrus tosses a brown bag to Ariana, calling Isaac an easy-to-use idiot, while the blonde knight encourages her to take the effective medicine.
Ariana catches the heavy pouch in her hands as a sudden soft thud sounding.
Ariana reminds Isaac that she is not actually the princess, but he simply smiles and claims to already know.
The blue-haired woman blushes deeply, wondering why he continues to use the title if he truly knows the truth. Ariana admits to herself that being called a princess makes her feel deeply uncomfortable.
Ariana watches the man talk from a distance, worrying about the possibility of the Northern Duke's temper flaring.
She decides to keep the bag for the journey ahead, tucking it securely into her dress.
A moment later, she would discover exactly why Isaac Perrin earned such fame as a master alchemist.
Ariana is stunned to find that her muscle aches have completely vanished. Isaac stretches as a sudden, quick rustle sounding, asking Cyrus if the princess also wishes to travel to the Northern Territory.
Cyrus bluntly says no, causing Isaac to recoil in shock and ask if he is planning to kidnap her.
Isaac shouts that forced marriages are for barbarians, while Cyrus calmly clarifies he has no intention of marrying or kidnapping anyone.
Cyrus wonders why everyone assumes he wants to marry the woman, while Isaac notes that the Duke seems genuinely clueless about his own feelings.
Cyrus ponders why their titles matter to him as Louis carries a dead boar and reminds Ariana that the rainy season has arrived.
Isaac suggests it might be better to call Charlotte Blenwit, who adores him, the princess instead.
Isaac laughs as he mentions wanting to use that title for her, but a sword tip suddenly presses against his neck as a sudden, sharp shink sounding.
Cyrus warns Isaac not to push his patience any further while holding his blade steady. Isaac offers a nervous smile at the Duke's intense reaction as a sudden, quick laugh sounding. Cyrus remarks that the woman is interesting, a sentiment Isaac wholeheartedly agrees with.
The Duke wonders how a woman supposedly locked in a mansion learned to ride with such seasoned expertise.
Cyrus notes that despite his investigations, there is very little information on her, making her all the more intriguing.
Isaac watches the Duke with a somber expression, realizing he finally understands why Cyrus is acting this way.
A dark history is hinted at involving the deaths of the previous Duke and his precarious position as a ruler.
Cyrus's future is compared to a small candle that could easily be snuffed out by a single breath.
Isaac places a hand on the Duke's shoulder, noting that as a friend, he is deeply worried about him. The blonde knight looks at his friend with a gaze full of concern. Cyrus removes Isaac's hand as a sudden, soft brush sounding, declaring that he has no regrets in his life.
The Duke smiles with a knowing look, stating that regret only serves to bring despair.
A view of the cloudy sky marks their arrival in the Empire, finally out of the Western Duke's reach. The group visits a small village on the border where the chief offers them a house and fresh clothes to borrow.
Ariana rests in a soft bed, grateful for everyone's consideration and the rare chance to have a room to herself.
She recalls how she spent every night prior surrounded by the presence of her companions.
The young woman tosses in her sleep as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, feeling an unexpected sense of emptiness.
Ariana remembers the group's kindness, from preparing her sleeping spots to providing the best meals they could offer.
She reflects on how deeply the others worried about her health during their journey.
Ariana lies awake in the quiet room, admitting to herself that she is sad they will soon have to part.
The scene shifts as the blue-haired woman floats in a dark void surrounded by shimmering lights.
Ariana feels a strange sense of displacement and asks if she is dreaming as Cyrus softly speaks her name.
The silver-haired Duke looks at her with a gentle expression and addresses her as Her Highness.
The blue-haired woman wonders how he could possibly be appearing within her dreams.
Cyrus pulls her close and leans in for a sudden, soft kiss sounding amidst a field of red lilies.
Ariana is left breathless and blushing as Cyrus looms over her with an intense gaze.
Ariana asks for the meaning of his advances, and Cyrus promises that he will cherish her. He reaches out to her and vows to ensure that she is never abandoned by anyone ever again.
Ariana's heart begins to race as a sudden, soft thud sounding when he gently takes her chin.
The dream turns into a nightmare as a rope tightens around her neck and a voice commands her to die. The vision of the Duke shatters like glass as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding.
A new day begins with the sun shining brightly in the sky.
Ariana looks out over the village and thanks Cyrus for everything he has done for her.
The silver-haired man stands before her in his dark red uniform, looking calm and collected. Ariana reminds herself that she cannot rely on their kindness or get too used to this newfound comfort.
Ariana assumes they must part ways now, but Cyrus remarks that she thanks him every chance she gets. She claims he already knows her truth, while the other knights watch from a distance with puzzled looks.
Cyrus leans in and reveals he is heading to the Eastern Territory, asking if they are going the same way.
Ariana and the nearby knights are visibly shocked by the Duke's sudden decision to change his route. A transition marks the group's continued journey through the kingdom.
A moment of quiet reflection passes as the scene shifts.
Ariana argues that he does not need to escort her, but Cyrus asks what if he truly has business there.
Ariana questions if he is being serious, and Cyrus simply confirms that he is. A close-up captures the focus and determination in the blue-haired woman's eye.
Ariana wonders if his business in the East is related to the heretical Paganis.
Cyrus smiles as a sudden, quick rustle sounding, noting that no woman has ever spoken the group's name so easily.
A dark history reveals the Paganis were heretics who lived in a massive city in the northeast.
The narrative explains how the heretics would kidnap people to offer them as sacrifices to their god.
To gain greater physical strength, the heretics would reportedly drink the blood of their human victims.
Cyrus's parents were killed in the war against them, and his first act as Duke was to hunt them down.
Though he gained immense authority from the subjugation, it is noted that the heretics did not fully vanish.
Ariana and Cyrus continue their conversation in the courtyard.
Ariana notes that danger is present wherever people live, regardless of the territory.
She reflects that death is still death, whether by her mother's hand or by the heretics.
The blue-haired woman looks at Cyrus and asks what she has left to be afraid of. Cyrus places a hand on her shoulder and observes that the noble spirit of her family flows within her.
Ariana admits her skills are lacking, but Cyrus explains that there are many ways to wage a war.
He touches her hair as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, saying she must choose between using strength or her mind.
Cyrus encourages her to find her own path and become a warrior in her own way.
Ariana looks away thoughtfully, taking the Duke's advice to heart.
A close-up of Ariana's eye shows a spark of newfound resolve and clarity.
She reflects on her past suffering, realizing her plan was never to win through physical force alone.
The young woman stands tall, her mind working through a new strategy.
Ariana concludes that the path she has chosen is unlike any conventional journey. She envisions herself as a noble figure, maintaining her dignity despite the chaos around her.
This is contrasted with the vulgarity and cruelty she associates with her mother and blonde sister.
Ariana vows to drag her enemies down by using their own treacherous methods against them.
The blue-haired woman stands with a calm and determined presence.
Cyrus looks at her with a knowing and supportive smile.
Ariana reflects that despite his younger age compared to her past life, the Duke is incredibly wise.
Ariana looks up at the silver-haired man and admits that he is truly very mature. The silver-haired Duke looks quite pensive.
Cyrus apologizes for his poor choice of words after trying to offer a compliment.
The silver-haired man laughs joyfully. Silver medals rest amongst blooming flowers. Ariana looks up at the Duke.
Resolve shines in their matching gazes.
Cyrus admits that he is nowhere near as clever as she is.
The travelers move through a massive, ornate city while staying hidden from public view.
It takes 15 days for the group to reach the capital of the East.
Ariana notes the pleasant spring weather in the Eastern Territory compared to the harsh West.
The blue-haired woman reflects on this being her first visit to the capital city. Ariana recalls helping the prince scheme against the Duke of the East in her past.
She remembers the cold, dark gaze the Eastern Duke once gave her. Ariana fears he will despise her even more for her sudden reappearance.
Ariana expresses her gratitude to the Northern Duke for ensuring her safe arrival as her thoughts drift to a missing letter.
Cyrus asks if she is feeling anxious, and Ariana confirms she feels much better now.
The Duke offers her a warm smile.
Cyrus reassures Ariana that her cleverness will guide her safely through any trouble.
Ariana watches him depart with lingering eyes.
She turns away from him as a sudden, soft rustle sounding.
Ariana feels as though her time with the Duke was merely a fleeting dream.
She admits to herself that Cyrus was never hers to keep.
Ariana covers her head and accepts that their connection was only temporary.
She walks toward the city gates as a sudden, quick tap sounding.
Isaac asks Cyrus if he is truly comfortable returning to the north immediately.
Isaac questions why they aren't leaving a night behind, noting the Eastern Duke's sharp instincts. Cyrus believes the Eastern Territory will treat Ariana with kindness.
Isaac questions his certainty, but the silver-haired Duke simply dismisses the concern. Cyrus clutches a stack of letters while claiming he is not worried about the Eastern Duke.
Cyrus jokes that he is more concerned about dealing with Duke Hearn's constant nagging.
A bank clerk thanks Ariana for her business.
Ariana checks her funds as a sudden soft rustle sounding, hoping they will sustain her. The blue-haired woman walks through the city. She recalls the cruelty of those who once sought to ruin her.
Ariana reflects on the lies she was told about the twisted nature of the Eastern citizens.
Looking at the vibrant market, she realizes her previous assumptions were entirely wrong.
A man bumps into her and walks away without an apology.
Ariana panics as she realizes her money pouch has been stolen. She shouts for the thief to stop immediately.
A vast array of diverse characters is showcased. Ariana chases the thief down a narrow alley.
The thief looks back as Ariana demands he halt.
She follows the man into the shadows.
Ariana offers him a chance to return the money peacefully, but he mocks her.
The thief laughs as Ariana realizes the danger she has walked into. He threatens her and tells her to walk away before he gets her.
Several knights on horseback suddenly block the thief's path.
The thief drops to his knees as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding, pleading his innocence.
The lead knight calls out his lies after hearing the thief's threats. The knight draws his blade as a sudden sharp hick sounding from the terrified man. The black-haired knight looms over the thief and declares him guilty of attempted murder, vowing to carve off as much flesh as the value of the stolen money once the wallet is found.
Terrified and sobbing, the thief cowers as a sudden soft rustle sounding, while the knight commands him to either hand over the wallet quietly or turn himself in.
Ariana watches from beneath her hide as the black-haired man asks if the stolen amount was 5 gold coins, which she promptly confirms. The knight explains that they rushed over after hearing a child was pickpocketed, expressing his relief that they arrived in time as a sudden sharp rustle sounding.
A close-up captures a moment of quiet intensity between the knight's steel gauntlet and the blue-haired woman's wide, shimmering eye. The black-haired man smiles warmly as he takes note of Ariana's distinct bluish hair.
A narrative revelation confirms that this young woman belongs to the noble family of the Duke of the East.
Ariana reflects on how dark blue hair is the undeniable symbol of the prestigious white family, noting that while the shade varies, every member carries the blue tint. She reveals that she inherited the trait ambiguously, resulting in light blue hair that her sister Rachel once despised for its resemblance to the Eastern Duke.
Ariana admits she hadn't expected to meet a member of the family so soon, while the knight asks if she was frightened to be carrying so much money at her age.
As he returns the brown pouch as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, the knight offers to escort her to her destination, while Ariana realizes he must be a close relative of the Duke.
The black-haired knight stands tall in his ornate silver armor, projecting an aura of confidence and nobility.
Ariana politely tries to decline his help to avoid being a burden, but she reminds herself to remain cautious as a sudden, quick rustle sounding.
The knight finds her speech remarkably mature as a sudden, soft rustle sounding.
jokingly comparing her to his own cousin, who he claims acts like a lunatic. He insists that while maturity is good, a child must learn to accept help from adults, especially since protecting citizens is his primary duty. Realizing she cannot refuse his persistence and knowing he will learn her identity eventually, Ariana decides to accept his bold offer as a sudden, soft rustle sounding. The knight reaches out as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding and takes hold of the blue-haired woman.
Ariana is left startled as a sudden quick rustle sounding when he lifts her onto the horse without a moment's hesitation.
Upon learning she is headed to Chase Castle, the knight notes as a sudden, fast rustle sounding that he is traveling there as well.
The black-haired man asks if she is uncomfortable during the ride, and Ariana quietly assures him that she is fine.
Ariana looks at the knight and realizes that he is genuinely kind, a sharp contrast to the warnings she once received.
She recalls Rachel's harsh claims that the White family was cold and vicious, but Ariana now finds the truth to be entirely different.
A moment of profound doubt and quiet questioning passes as the scene shifts. A close-up of Ariana's eyes shows a sudden, sharp glint of determination. The blue-haired woman looks out from her hood with a pensive expression.
The magnificent spires of Chase Castle loom in the distance as the group approaches the grand entrance.
Ariana looks up at the massive structure, feeling the weight of the moment.
She reflects on the 2 months that have passed since her return, realizing she has finally reached this pivotal location after a long journey.
A dark memory flashes of Ariana in a cold dungeon, recalling how she never once visited her biological father's homeland before her previous death.
She stares at the guards at the gate, recognizing this as the place where she was born, as a sudden, soft rustle sounding.
Despite the history, she feels as though this grand castle is a place that does not truly belong to her, as a sudden, quick rustle sounding.
A guard informs her as a sudden, sharp top sounding that His Grace is currently busy, offering to take a message, but Ariana firmly refuses.
Ariana adjusts her hood as a sudden, soft rustle sounding and formally requests an immediate audience with the Duke of the East.
The black-haired knight is stunned into silence as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding when Ariana reveals her name.
Surprising everyone, she declares with a steady voice that she is the daughter of His Grace, the Duke of the East. A guard leads her into an ornate hall and instructs her to wait there for further word.
The lavish interior of the waiting room is showcased as a sudden, soft top sounding. Ariana sits alone on a green sofa, the silence of the massive room surrounding her.
Clutching her dress as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, she wonders how Russell White will treat a daughter he is meeting for the very first time.
She fears that his reaction will be nothing but a cold frown. The memory of the Eastern Duke's stern and intimidating presence lingers in her mind.
Ariana plans to gain his attention by revealing she has evidence of the Western Duke's weakness, hoping his cautious nature will keep her safe as a sudden, soft rustle sounding. A guard announces as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding that the Duke, along with the former Duke and Duchess, are now entering the room. Ariana stands as a sudden, sharp creak sounding, focusing on her singular goal of proving her biological lineage to the family.
The blue-haired woman performs a deep, respectful bow to greet the Duke and his crats.
Ariana introduces herself as 3 imposing figures loom over her.
A heavy silence fills the air as a sudden, soft rustle sounding when the Duke observes her.
The stern black-haired Duke breaks the silence with a firm command for her to raise her head. Ariana interprets his delayed response as a sign of his displeasure as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding. Too afraid to meet his gaze, she apologizes for the intrusion and clarifies that she isn't there to claim any rights as a sudden, soft rustle sounding.
Ariana offers to share intelligence regarding the Western Territory in exchange for a room at Chase Castle, promising she will not be a threat.
Ariana maintains her respectful bow as a sudden, soft rustle sounding while the Duke and his parents observe her in silence. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Ariana worries if her bold proposal was too blunt for the room. Ariana looks down with a pensive gaze, stating that her unique hair color is undeniable proof of her connection to the White family. She clarifies that her arrival was not ordered by anyone else as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, though she acknowledges how difficult that may be to believe.
A moment of deep emotional connection passes as Ariana finds herself held by the older woman.
The scene lingers on the soft, grayish-purple hair of the woman embracing Ariana.
The woman covers her mouth in a moment of quiet disbelief while offering words of comfort.
Ariana is visibly taken aback by the sudden warmth and affection shown by her grandmother.
The stern, black-haired Duke looks on and reassures Ariana that everything is fine. Russell's intense, dark blue eyes are captured in a moment of sharp focus as he observes his daughter.
A series of panels highlights the ornate details of Lady Carradine's jewelry and Lord Theodore's military attire as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding.
Lord Theodore White formally greets Ariana, acknowledging the gravity of her arrival.
Count Roman enters the room and notes as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding that Ariana's features are identical to the day she was born.
Roman explains that they had already begun investigating House Bronte after hearing troubling rumors about the daughters of that family.
Looking toward Theodore, the woman notes the high likelihood that the visitor is truly Ariana as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding.
Lady Carradine is overcome with emotion as a sudden, soft gasp sounding, her eyes welling with tears.
Russell questions if the hair color could be faked through magic, but Roman insists the specific shade is impossible to replicate artificially.
Wiping her tears, Lady Carradine looks at her husband and comments on the young woman's face.
Theodore listens as his wife remarks that Ariana bears a striking resemblance to Russell himself.
A close-up of Russell's face reveals a subtle, sharp Russell sounding as he struggles with his internal reaction.
Turning to his parents, the black-haired Duke asks for guidance on how he should proceed.
Theodore commands his son to pull himself together as a sudden, sharp Russell sounding, telling him the only right thing to do is hug his daughter.
Russell clenches his hand in anxiety, reflecting on how much time has passed since she was taken from the Eastern Command.
The Duke expresses his fear as a sudden, sharp Russell sounding, worrying that his daughter will find his presence terrifying.
Theodore advises him to soften his intimidating gaze, though Russell claims he is already trying his best to look approachable.
Theodore rubs his forehead in exasperation as a sudden, soft sigh sounding at his son's lack of social grace.
A flashback reveals that Russell was born with a naturally cold expression that once made other children cry just by looking at them.
Russell remains so blunt that even his own nephews avoid him, leaving him unable to comfort others with words.
Lady Carradine attempts to soothe her son's visible tension as a sudden, soft Russell sounding, noting that his brow is far too stiff.
She realizes with a look of concern that Russell's current demeanor is not suitable for a reunion. Russell asks his parents to accompany him into the hall as a sudden, sharp Russell sounding, and they agree it is for the best. Standing before the grand doors, the group pauses as Russell requests a moment to gather his courage. The black-haired man stands alone for a moment as a sudden, soft Russell sounding, preparing himself for the confrontation.
Russell's focus narrows on the door handle as he contemplates the significance of the meeting ahead.
He reminds himself that his daughter, Ariana, is waiting on the other side of that door. Russell begins to walk forward, his blue eyes filled with a mix of determination and apprehension.
A transitional shadow passes as the Duke's thoughts drift toward the past.
He recalls a distant memory of the only time he was ever able to hold his child.
In a vision of the past, a younger Russell cradles baby Ariana, who already possesses the family's signature blue hair.
The memory shows Russell looking down at his newborn daughter with a rare, gentle smile.
Russell reflects on the moment he held her, recalling how he felt as though he possessed the entire world.
The scene shifts to a darker time as Russell is shown collapsed in grief over an empty bed.
He remembers the day Rachel vanished, leaving behind nothing but a cold request for a divorce.
Russell recalls writing hundreds of letters to both Rachel and Ariana, hoping for some word from his lost family.
A heavy realization settles in as he remembers that he never received a single response to his many pleas.
The Duke recalls his frustration in his office, limited by political ties that prevented him from entering the Western Command to find them.
Driven by desperation, a younger Russell is shown secretly traveling to the Western Territory on horseback through the pouring rain. He recalls meeting a blonde woman who coldly informed him that Ariana had no desire to ever see him again.
The woman accused Russell of being selfish, claiming that Ariana had already accepted another man as her father and that his letters were causing distress.
In a rain-soaked memory, a blonde woman suggests that letting go of his longing would be a true act of fatherly love for his lost child.
The woman turns her back and departs into the stormy night as a sudden, sharp Russell sounding.
Russell realizes with a heavy heart that he never once considered Ariana's own feelings during their long separation.
He reflects on his own selfish desires, admitting he never tried to understand what his daughter might be experiencing. Standing alone in the downpour, the Duke decided to remain a stranger for the sake of his child's peace as a sudden, heavy splash sounding.
In the present day, Russell watches the door and reflects on how the daughter he longed for has finally returned to him.
He reaches out and pushes open the massive white doors as a sudden, sharp creak sounding.
The black-haired man takes a heavy, deliberate step into the waiting room.
Russell enters the room with a stern expression, masking the internal turmoil of this long-awaited meeting. Ariana stands before the imposing figures and firmly identifies herself by name. The blue-haired woman stands small but resolute as her father and grandparents observe her from across the grand hall.
Russell gazes at his daughter in a heavy silence, his expression unreadable as he takes in her appearance.
Ariana looks down and begins to explain her reasons for arriving at the castle.
She softly clarifies that she has no intention of placing blame on him for the past.
The Duke and his parents watch Ariana with a mix of concern and confusion as she continues her explanation.
Russell is struck by a wave of shock as he wonders why Ariana looks so haggard and worn.
He notices her tattered dress, her fragile, underfed frame, and the faint bruises marking her skin. The Duke sees her avoid eye contact, recognizing the fearful, trembling gaze of a child who has known only hardship.
Russell struggles to process the realization that his daughter displays every sign of being a victim of abuse.
His thoughts turn toward Rachel, filled with a sudden, dark suspicion about what she did to their child.
The scene shifts to a bright, steam-filled bathroom where Ariana is finally allowed to relax in a warm bath. Two maids attend to the young woman as she enjoys the luxury of the massive marble tub as a sudden, soft splash sounding. Ariana looks on in wonder at the trays of expensive sweets and cakes prepared for her.
She reflects on the vast wealth of the Eastern Command and the historical rivalry it sparked with the West.
Ariana recalls how the Western High Lord schemed to turn the Emperor against the Duke of the East through rumors.
She remembers how the Emperor, fueled by suspicion, stripped the Eastern High Lord of his military authority.
As a result of the political betrayal, the Eastern Command was left to fight off invaders without any imperial support.
Despite the looming threat of war, Ariana is surprised by the peaceful atmosphere within the castle. The warm water soothes her skin as the scene lingers on the quiet luxury of the bath.
Ariana looks around the opulent room, realizing this grand place is where her biological father truly lives. She compares the beauty of her current surroundings to the false memories of peace her mother once described. A dark memory flashes of the violence and fear she endured while living in the Western Territory. Ariana recalls the isolation of her previous life, picturing herself alone in a cold stone cell.
An oppressive darkness momentarily clouds her thoughts as the scene transitions.
Back in the present, the blue-haired woman finds quiet solace in the warmth of the bath.
Ariana takes a small tentative bite of a pink macaron. In another room, the family gathers as a sudden, sharp top sounding to discuss the gravity of Ariana's condition.
Lady Carradine somberly concludes that Ariana has clearly suffered from severe long-term abuse.
Russell remains seated in a state of shock as his mother confirms the heartbreaking truth of his daughter's life. The woman laments, believing Rachel's claims that Ariana was doing well, feeling a deep sense of shared guilt. Lady Carradine's eyes flash with a mix of sorrow and anger as she processes the family's failure. A heavy, somber thud sounds as the gravity of the situation settles over the group.
Russell is overwhelmed by grief, leaning forward in his chair as a sudden, sharp rustle sounding.
The black-haired man buries his face in his hands, unable to contain his mounting despair.
Count Roman looks on as Russell laments how small and thin his daughter has become.
The Duke is haunted by Ariana's desperate plea to prove her worth to a family she only just met. Russell reflects on the happy life he once imagined for her, filled with beautiful dresses and bright smiles. A sharp, painful realization cuts through his idealized visions of the past.
He realizes Ariana must have fled for her very life, driven by the cruelty of her own biological mother.
Russell stands and erupts in righteous fury, questioning how any parent could allow their child to suffer such a fate. Russell and Theodore reflect on the harsh reality of bad parenting.
Theodore laments that Ariana has suffered abuse and neglect, leaving her in a state where she feels her own family cannot be trusted.
Lady Carradine asks if the new clothes fit, and Ariana politely thanks her as she adjusts to her clean attire.
A simple dinner is prepared specifically for Ariana's first night at the castle. At the dining table, Lady Carradine explains she prepared dishes that children usually enjoy, hoping she finds something she likes.
Russell sits close to his daughter, prompting Ariana to think the proximity is uncomfortable, even as she expresses her gratitude.
Lady Carradine is heartbroken when Ariana calls the meal fine food, sadly realizing the young woman must have been starved of quality nourishment.
Lady Carradine encourages the girl to eat as a sudden, soft clink sounding as Ariana begins her meal with a quiet thank you.
The blue-haired woman takes a small, cautious bite.
Ariana feels the weight of her family's gaze, worrying that their easy acceptance masks hidden intentions that she cannot yet read.
Ariana remains on edge, convinced that the adults are scrutinizing her every move at the table.
Theodore observes Ariana's refined manners, noting that she displays a level of dignity unexpected for a girl who has not yet debuted.
The atmosphere remains heavy and uncomfortable for the young woman as Lady Carradine watches her with visible sorrow. Ariana finishes her meal as a sudden, sharp clatter sounding, stating that she has eaten well thanks to their care.
Blue eyes reflect a deep, lingering anxiety.
Ariana wonders if the kindness is over and if it's finally time to address the real reason for her presence.
She watches her father and grandmother, curious about what the family will choose to do with her now. Ariana mentally prepares herself for the possibility of being kicked out or forced to prove her worth. Lady Carradine kindly suggests that Ariana should go and rest after the exhaustion of her long journey. The blue-haired woman reacts with utter shock. Ariana is baffled that they are allowing her to stay in the castle this easily without any formal verification or suspicion.
Lady Carradine reaches out as Ariana stares at the woman's hand in confusion.
Ariana assumes the extended hand is a request for evidence, apologizing to the older woman for having nothing prepared. The young woman admits she has no proof to give, fearing she has shamed Lady Carradine's hand by coming empty-handed. Lady Carradine's jaw drops in stunned silence. A sudden soft gasp sounding as the older woman firmly takes Ariana's hands in her own. Lady Carradine looks at the girl with a gaze filled with overwhelming pity.
The grandmother's hands gently squeeze the girl's smaller ones.
Ariana looks up in silent bewilderment.
A tender bond begins to form as they stand hand in hand. Lady Carradine leads the girl into an opulent bedroom and asks if she likes the grand, pretty space. Lady Carradine explains the room has been waiting for her, leaving Ariana in a state of disbelief. The woman reveals they always kept a room prepared in the Eastern Territory in case Ariana ever came to visit. Lady Carradine insists she lie down and sleep, noting that showing her the rest of the castle can wait until she is rested. Ariana is gently tucked into the massive bed. A sudden soft rustle sounding as the heavy duvet is pulled up. The girl blinks in the quiet luxury. Lady Carradine bids her sweet dreams as Ariana lies alone in the beautiful room. Peace finally settles over the guest chamber.
Ariana assumes such a fancy room must have belonged to the former Duchess.
She reflects on the room's luxury, noting it far surpasses any quarters she has ever seen before. Lying in a bed this magnificent is a stunning new experience for the blue-haired woman.
Ariana focuses on the memory of the grandmother's tucks.
A hand simply held her own. She reflects on how parents are supposed to hold their children's hands, a gesture that was never permitted for her. A flashback shows baby Ariana watching from the shadows as her mother holds another child's hand, leaving her to do everything alone. Ariana's lips curl into a faint, melancholy smile.
Lady Caridin's heart breaks for the granddaughter she is only just beginning to know.
The warmth of the touch lingers. Ariana hides beneath the covers as a sudden, soft rustle sounding, finally succumbing to sleep.
The morning sun rises over the castle as a sudden, loud shout sounding regarding a missed warning. Count Pelos insists they should have personally checked the girl's well-being regardless of what was said. Pelos rages about 16 years of parental neglect, while Lady Caridin defends Russell's regret.
The blue-bearded man demands to know if Langsty feels any anger over the current situation.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding as Duke Langsty listens with a somber, calculating expression.
Duke Langsty openly questions whether Ariana arrived at the castle with a hidden agenda or ulterior motives.
Duke Langsty White, the second son of the family, remains focused on the potential political risks.
Pelos is left speechless by his brother's cold line of questioning.
Pelos asks if Ariana is a spy, but Langsty doubts a lone teenager traveled so far alone. Langsty suggests that her mature demeanor and the story of abuse could easily be a fabricated ruse. The Duke worries about the potential secret intentions of the West High Lord.
A sudden, loud shout for silence cuts through the tense family debate. A heavy, somber thud sounds as Russell slams his hands onto the desk in a fury. The dark-haired Duke asks his brother if he is truly daring to suspect his own daughter.
Langsty argues that suspicion is necessary, reminding the group of Rachel's past betrayals. A sudden, soft grunt sounding as Langsty warns that Ariana might have been brainwashed to work for the West. A sudden, heavy footstep sounding as Russell declares that despite any risks, she is his child.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as Russell tells Langsty to take his title if he prioritizes land over family.
Russell storms out as Pelos cheers his decisiveness, while a sudden, soft sigh sounding from Langsty. A sudden, quick tap sounding as a set of hurried feet move down the hallway.
A heavy, somber thud sounds as a maid bursts into the room with an urgent announcement.
The maid informs a startled Lord Russell that there is a grave emergency involving the girl. Russell is frozen in fear as the maid reports that Lady Ariana has lost consciousness. Ariana's mind drifts back to a painful childhood memory of watching her mother with another girl. She recalls how she used to envy the way Helena was allowed to call Rachel mommy and receive treats. A sudden, loud bang sounding as the mother glares at Ariana for daring to address her familiarly.
A sudden, soft sniffle sounding as young Ariana tentatively asks for a piece of chocolate too.
Rachel's face twists in a sudden, sharp sneer as she looks down at her unwanted child.
The mother berates the girl for her foolishness, and Ariana begs for forgiveness at her feet.
Crying and desperate, Ariana promises she will never make the mistake of calling her mother again. She pleads for mercy, vowing to maintain her distance and remember her lack of manners.
Back in the present, the family stands around Ariana's bed as she struggles in her sleep.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding as the blue-haired woman's fever worsens.
Lady Caridin and Langsty observe the young woman's distressed state with heavy hearts.
Russell asks if she is all right, and Lady Caridin explains that her exhaustion turned into a fever.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding as Lady Caridin points out the extensive signs of malnutrition and beatings.
The grandmother weeps, stating the girl's body is too weak and needs medicine to survive.
A sudden, quick tap sounding as someone leaves to prepare the necessary treatments.
A heavy, somber thud sounds as the gravity of her injuries settles over the gathered men.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as Pelos grabs his brother's collar in a fit of righteous rage.
Pelos demands to know how Langsty can still doubt the story of abuse given her physical state. Lady Caridin tries to calm Pelos down, but he remains incensed by the cruelty the child endured. Russell watches his daughter with a look of pure, heartbreaking despair. A sudden, soft tap sounding as Langsty places a hand on his brother's arm to ease the tension.
Langsty warns that keeping her will create a legal custody battle since she belongs to Rachel.
Pelos argues that such a woman has no right to motherhood, but Langsty insists on facing reality.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding as Langsty notes they will be forced to return her if Rachel comes.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding as Russell orders that they must hide Ariana's presence at all costs.
The Duke commands his family to begin gathering evidence and testimonies regarding the abuse.
Langsty somberly notes that they will eventually have to ask the girl about her traumatic past.
The blue-haired woman stands peacefully beneath a vast cloud-filled sky.
Ariana reflects on the stunning beauty of the clear blue sky above her.
Deep blue eyes mirror the infinite expanse of the heavens.
Ariana wakes in a grand bed with her father watching over her.
Russell looks at his daughter with a gaze full of quiet, heavy contemplation.
Ariana is struck by the realization that her father's eyes are as clear as the sky.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as Ariana tries to sit up, but Russell insists she remain lying down to recover.
Ariana bows her head from the bed, formally paying her respects to the High Lord while apologizing for her physical weakness. A sudden, quick movement sounding as Pelos bursts into the room, shouting at Ariana that the man before her is simply her father. Pelos rages about the girl using such formal titles for her own parent, while Ariana realizes the man is her uncle.
Ariana is completely overwhelmed by the chaotic family dynamic and the surreal idea of calling the Duke Dad. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Pelos interrupts Ariana's formal greeting to declare that he is her uncle.
Pelos insists she call him her youngest uncle, forbidding her from using formal titles like Lord or Count.
The boisterous man leans in close, demanding that Ariana practice calling him uncle immediately. Pelos beams with sparkles in his eyes, eagerly waiting for the girl to acknowledge their family bond.
The atmosphere in the opulent guest chamber remains thick with the weight of newfound family connections. Langsty watches the scene with disbelief as Pelos boasts about being the first one to be called uncle.
A sudden, soft footstep sounding as another man approaches the bed to address the young woman. Langsty introduces himself as the Duke and her father's older brother, noting he has much to discuss with her.
Ariana faces her eldest uncle with a mixture of caution and quiet curiosity. Langsty offers to answer any questions she might have as Ariana considers her next words carefully.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as a hand reaches out toward the blue-haired woman.
A sudden, gentle pat sounding as Langsty places a reassuring hand on Ariana's head.
The Duke softens his tone, telling Ariana that her primary focus should be eating well and resting.
Ariana looks up in silent shock at the unexpected gesture of affection from the stern man.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding as Pelos shoves his brother aside, accusing him of pressuring the recovering girl.
Pelos gives a thumbs up, telling Ariana not to take Langsty's harshness to heart and to think of him as her favorite uncle. Russell speaks up with a heavy heart, noting how much time has passed since he last saw her as a small child.
The White family brothers surround Ariana's bed, finally united with the daughter they long neglected.
Pelos smiles broadly, officially welcoming Ariana to the Eastern Territory with open arms.
A sudden soft sniffle sounding as a single tear wells up in Ariel's eye.
A sudden soft bow sounding as Ariana tries to express her gratitude for the incredibly warm welcome.
A sudden soft gasp sounding as Ariana's voice fails her, overwhelmed by emotions she cannot name. Lady Carradine promises to have food brought to the room so Ariana can begin to regain her strength. A sudden soft clink sounding as a tray of warm soup and water is placed before the young woman. Ariana notices that while the others have departed, her father remains by her side in the quiet room.
A sudden quick tap sounding as Ariana prepares to eat, wondering if the Duke is staying to monitor her behavior.
A sudden sharp clatter sounding as Ariana is startled by her father's sudden movement toward her tray.
A sudden soft clink sounding as Russell takes the spoon, explaining that she is too weak to feed herself after sleeping for a full day.
A sudden soft splash sounding as the spoon dips into the nutritious broth. A sudden soft rustle sounding as Russell holds out a spoonful of food, ordering his daughter to open her mouth.
A sudden soft grunt sounding as Ariana trembles under her father's intense and frighteningly serious gaze.
Ariana stutteringly insists she can feed herself, but Russell remains unmoved in his determination.
The Duke firmly requests that she allow him to do at least this one small thing for her.
Ariana is perplexed by the deep underlying sadness she hears in her father's voice. Russell's blue eyes are filled with a profound and heartbreaking sense of regret. Beneath the full moon, Russell admits he cannot officially name her princess until the proper preparations are complete.
The Duke explains that he must first secure legal custody before he can proclaim her status to the world.
Russell looks at Ariana with surprise, asking why she hasn't questioned any of his actions or motives.
He wonders why she hasn't asked about the reason for her summons as Ariana reflects on her uncle's previous suspicions.
Duke Russell states he will act regardless of whatever her true intentions might be. Russell stares intently at Pesquito.
Her attention is taken by a sudden soft whisper sounding as someone spots the girl with light blue hair.
A masked assassin asks if they should just kill her and bring the body, and his partner confirms they should.
The kneeling hooded figure marvels that Rachel is willing to go after her own biological daughter.
Light cuts through the dark void. Rachel declares that their entire family fell apart because of Ariana's existence.
Looking murderous, Rachel orders the men to scour the whole world if necessary to find her.
Rachel demands the girl's head. The assassins plan their attack, noting the girl looks vulnerable and alone despite being next to the High Lord. Assassin believes killing her is easy.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Pelos and Langsty seize the intruders, demanding they repeat their threats in court.
The captive grumbles about being forced to betray his client's secrets, while Pelos reacts with a look of shock. Pelos recoils in horror as his attention is taken by a sudden, soft grunt sounding from the dying assassin.
Pelos grumbles about the suicide, while Langsty notes that dealing with assassins is always a massive pain.
A warm light fills the guest room as a voice asks the princess if she feels improved.
Ariana looks at her attendant and confirms she feels better thanks to the woman's care.
Viscountess Katrin Luell tells Ariana she will soon be a princess despite the girl's humble protest. Katrin predicts everyone will be thrilled by her return, though Ariana remains quietly skeptical.
Her attention is taken by a sudden soft clink sounding as Katrin explains that both white families are visiting for lunch. The maid mentions that while the heir is at the front, he has certainly heard the news of her arrival.
Ariana is shocked money news.
Ariana recalls that Russell adopted Jor, a distant relative's son, because of the lack of a proper successor. She remembers Jor was renowned as the bravest and most level-headed warrior on every battlefield. In her memory, Jor saved the Eastern High Lord's life and died in his place during the Third Prince's War. Bloody hands reach into the dark.
Ariana envisions herself with a noose, reflecting on how she was the one who destroyed this family.
Flames consume a fortress as she reflects on her desperate struggle to survive and be acknowledged.
She thinks of how she shattered the White family that had once abandoned and neglected her.
Ariana walks toward her picture. Standing before a grand portrait, Ariana notes that she is now forced to rely on the very family she hated. Ariana admits she hates her situation.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, soft gasp sounding as she recalls the family apologizing to her in bed.
The apology feels sweet like honey.
Ariana questions their sudden sincerity.
Russell is the powerful High Lord.
He could have saved her anytime. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as she reflects on 28 years of total neglect. She remembers being thoroughly alone and walking toward death in that long, oppressive darkness.
Ariana declares she has no regrets.
Night falls over the military camp.
His attention is taken by a sudden, soft rustle sounding as a subordinate asks Heir Jor why the letter has troubled him.
Jor grips the letter tightly.
George stares blankly at the nails.
Jor reads that the Lord's biological daughter has returned, while the messenger refers to Ariana as the true princess.
Jor reads the news with concern.
The subordinate notes that as the Lord's real child, the princess must be exceptionally strong and bright.
The man asks if a nobody or the brilliant daughter would be chosen, as Jor realizes Ariana is effectively the heir.
His attention is taken by a sudden, sharp rustle sounding as Jor internally groans at the man's constant nagging. Despite his personal annoyance, Jor decides he must address the messenger with formal politeness. Katrin notes Ariana is walking quickly and asks if she is excited about dinner, to which the princess gives a tentative agreement.
The maid clarifies that the young woman is finally meeting someone her own age, Lady Isabel, causing the princess to pause in surprise.
Ariana recognizes the name Isabel White and recalls seeing her at a grand party during her previous life. She remembers how the girl always wore striking red dresses that suited her perfectly and captivated everyone's attention.
Katrin explains that Isabel personally advised the Lord on the princess's pink room and dresses, believing all girls naturally love the color.
Ariana stands alone in her pink gown, simply wishing for a pleasant meal.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as the blue-haired woman offers a gentle smile and thanks Katrin for her assistance. At the dinner table, the atmosphere is formal as someone asks if the princess has already met their guest.
Isabel White is introduced as the vibrant and outspoken second daughter of the White family. Countess Bryant White tells Isabel to be quiet and not bother Ariana, who has endured much physical and emotional stress.
A sudden, sharp clatter sounding as the doors are opened and a servant formally announces the arrival of Princess Ariana White.
Ariana introduces herself with a polite bow against a backdrop of blooming flowers.
The young woman takes her seat at the dinner table, observed closely by her gathered family members. Isabel immediately criticizes the pink dress, calling the choice of color tacky for the current times. Her father shouts her name in reprimand, suggesting that light green would have been more appropriate for the weather.
Isabel asks the Duke if he still keeps the child's room pink, causing the man to sweat under the pressure of the awkward question. Ariana thanks Isabel for the concern, but politely states she likes pink, though her formal address shocks Isabel's father. Isabel leans forward and firmly identifies herself as the princess's cousin.
A sudden, loud laugh sounding as the Count apologizes for his daughter's bluntness and encourages the two girls to get along.
Ariana maintains her formal distance by addressing him as Count, which prompts Isabel to complain about the lack of familial titles. Isabel acknowledges that they have actually met once before and thanks the princess for her help at that time.
A sudden, soft clink sounding as the family begins their meal in the opulent, high-ceilinged dining hall.
A man notes that Ariana is truly full of grace as she begins to eat her dinner.
A sudden, soft sigh sounding as the princess offers a simple thanks for the compliment.
She internally reflects on how she mastered such etiquette through painful training just to stand beside the third prince. Ariana recalls the scars on her back, representing her desperate struggle to survive and receive basic human treatment.
Despite her outward composure, she admits to herself that the formal situation is incredibly uncomfortable.
The princess watches her cousin carefully as the meal continues in relative silence.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding as a voice suggests that Isabel could learn a great deal about behavior from Ariana.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Isabel slams her hands onto the table in a sudden burst of energy. Isabel points at the princess's plate and bluntly tells her not to eat the carrots if she doesn't like them.
While her father yells her name, Isabel continues by telling Ariana not to drink the lime juice if it isn't to her taste.
A sudden, soft splash sounding as a different glass is pushed toward the shocked princess.
The Count apologizes for the outburst and promises to speak with his daughter regarding her manners.
He grabs Isabel's arm to lead her away while she indignantly asks what she did wrong.
Ariana stares in wide-eyed silence, replaying the girl's command to simply not eat what she dislikes.
Isabel shouts back that Ariana should eat what she wants, questioning if that wasn't the reason for her arrival.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as the boisterous girl struggles against her father's firm grip.
Isabel demands to know why the princess is still doing things she doesn't want to do even in this new environment.
The cousin's final shout to do what she wants echoes in Ariana's mind as she watches her leave.
A sudden soft grunt sounding as Isabel is finally dragged out of the room, leaving her father to apologize once more.
The Count laments his daughter's strong attitude while Ariana sits in contemplative silence.
A sudden soft clink sounding as the princess dismisses the incident, stating that it is nothing.
She wonders how Isabel could have possibly known the truth of her internal struggle.
Ariana realizes the girl saw right through her as she was forcing herself to eat everything on the plate.
She admits she was eating without regard for her own preferences just to maintain a perfect appearance.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as the princess feels a rare sense of gratitude that someone finally noticed her true feelings.
After the meal, the Duke gathers the men and Ariana to ask her several direct questions about her intentions.
Ariana prepares herself for the interrogation and gives him her full permission to proceed.
The Duke asks what she truly wants from them, and she declares her desire to stay at Chase Castle until she reaches adulthood.
Ariana asks the Duke for permission to keep the White family name until she reaches adulthood.
The Duke is taken aback, insisting that she should remain with the family even after she becomes an adult. A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as the Count turns to the Duke, seeking his agreement on the princess's permanent stay. A sudden, soft gasp sounding as the Duke stares at Ariana with an intense, unreadable gaze. Ariana internally questions if he is reading her mind before outwardly asking for nothing more than a place to live at Chase Castle to take care of herself. The blue-haired princess promises that her presence will not be a wasted investment and that she will eventually repay their kindness twice over. A sudden soft rustle sounding as the Duke's expression remains stoic during the conversation. The Duke internally reflects on how every word the girl speaks feels like it is piercing his chest. He remembers learning about the horrific abuse Ariana suffered at the Bronte estate through the testimony of dismissed maids. The Duke notes that the way she rejects any help or affection feels like a harsh reproach for his past absence.
He envisions a spectral Ariana asking what he was doing while she was forced to endure such suffering.
The man's guilt manifests as a vision of Ariana placing her hands on his face, demanding he look straight at the result of his negligence. Ariana sits firmly in her chair, appearing resilient despite the heavy atmosphere.
A sudden sharp thud sounds as the Duke clenches his fist tightly against the table in a surge of self-loathing.
An oppressive darkness consumes the scene.
The Duke and Ariana sit opposite each other in the vast, quiet dining hall as the sun begins to set.
The princess looks toward the window with a distant expression.
A blonde-haired girl holds a cockon.
The Duke continues to be haunted by the question of what he was doing while Ariana's life was being destroyed.
In his vision, the princess stands over him with a noose around her neck, forcing him to acknowledge her pain.
The spectral voice asks if he truly believed she could survive without experiencing hell.
A moment of dark, silent reflection. The Duke imagines her declaring her deep resentment toward him and questioning how she could feel otherwise.
He reflects on the cruelty of her being born only to be neglected and abandoned.
A memory surfaces of Ariana on her knees, surrounded by the sharp blades of those who meant her harm. Her wide-eyed terror in the past contrasts sharply with her current composure.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as the princess's lips curve into a gentle, polite smile.
Ariana brightly claims that she could never possibly resent the parents who gave her life, shocking those at the table with her facade.
The Duke watches her with a deeply troubled expression. A sudden soft sigh sounding as he offers a faint, sorrowful smile.
The Duke tells Ariana she doesn't need to treat their help as a debt and promises she will officially become the princess of Eastern Command.
The man with glasses explains he is gathering evidence to regain legal custody of her and prepare for any tricks from Western Command.
Ariana asks if the maids he dismissed are the witnesses he plans to use to prove her case.
The man mentions they have someone even more powerful and influential to support their cause.
The group continues their dinner discussion.
The Count notes that the testimony of such a powerful figure would be worth more than 100 maids.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as the Duke agrees with the assessment.
Ariana offers a formal smile and states she looks forward to working with the Eastern High Lord. The scene shifts abruptly away. The focus moves to Maho Castle in Northern Command, where men discuss the arrival of a new Marquioness.
Duke Toshio Hearn expresses his pleasure at the news, noting he has struggled with political power plays without a wife.
Lord Andre Hearn questions if it is too early to be preparing her chambers and staff.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as a servant announces that his lordship has finally arrived at the castle.
A silver-haired man riding a black horse arrives at the gates under the night sky.
A blonde-haired woman internally wonders why the Marchioness is not with him and fears he may have been involved with Louise.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as the Duke approaches and asks if there were any issues during the journey.
The Duke asks the silver-haired man for the location of the Marchioness who was supposed to be traveling with him.
The silver-haired man looks back at the blonde woman in silence.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding as his red eyes narrow and he sternly demands an explanation.
Someone falls to their knees.
A blonde man on the ground begs to be killed as the silver-haired lord coldly agrees, while the man with the mustache notes the captive is running his mouth again.
The silver-haired man orders the execution to take place in 3 days, internally reflecting that disrespecting the queen is unpardonable, and showing leniency would undermine his authority.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as a dark-haired man kneels before the Lord, pleading to share the punishment and spare his friend's life.
A sudden soft laugh sounding as the silver-haired man offers a cruel smile and agrees to spare the man's life because of such impressive loyalty.
The Lord orders the red-haired woman, Louise, to strip both men and deliver 20 lashes to each, which she acknowledges with formal obedience. As they walk, the silver-haired man reflects on his foolishness for trusting someone named Isaac, while the man with the mustache asks to show him something important.
The Lord turns back with a calm expression and gives the command to bring the others inside.
The man with the mustache explains that they recently engaged in a skirmish with Paganus and kept several young children as hostages.
The silver-haired man's red eye narrows in a cold, calculating gaze. A sudden soft grunt sounding as the 2 dark-haired children glare up at the Lord with teeth bared in fierce defiance. A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as the young girl captive struggles against the ropes binding her.
A sudden loud scream sounding as the 2 children lunge forward in a desperate final act of rebellion.
A sudden sharp ring sounding as the silver-haired man's hand moves to draw his blade. A sudden wet splash sounding as the Lord strikes down both children in a single brutal motion. A sudden soft gasp sounding as the man with the mustache expresses shock that the captives still possessed so much will to fight. Wiping a streak of blood from his cheek, the silver-haired man coldly orders for the corpses to be skewered and displayed outside the castle walls.
He reflects on the harsh reality that age means nothing to him when he is faced with an enemy.
A sudden soft splash sounding as a muscular figure enters the water.
A sudden soft sigh sounding as the silver-haired man relaxes in a steaming bath to wash away the day's violence.
He runs his fingers through his hair, soaking in the quiet solitude of the chamber.
His red eyes remain focused and unblinking.
He recalls his childhood trauma where the Emperor sought to kill him and seize Northern Command's army after his parents died.
He remembers his nanny being killed during their flight and how the man with the mustache lost his right hand while searching for him. The man stares silently at the wire.
He reflects on the many enemies.
He observes the numerous scars on his back.
He remembers the necessity of growing strong, gathering allies, and reclaiming the scattered Black Knights to survive.
A sudden soft splash sounding as he steps out of the bath, recalling his drive for power so great that no one would dare challenge him.
A sudden sharp rustle sounding as he dresses, lamenting that his parents' names are still stained by accusations of treachery.
He reflects on how they were allegedly betrayed and killed by their vassals and the Western High Lord, Rodian Oblin.
The man examines a stock of letters. He reflects on finding a glimpse of the truth within Rachel Bronte's letters. Looking out at the snow, he admits that while the evidence isn't perfect, watching Rachel Bronte was the correct strategic move.
The silver-haired man whispers the name Brocke.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as his thoughts shift to the blue-haired girl, wondering what she is doing at this moment. He notes that the Eastern High Lord's constant inquiries about her well-being have served to protect her from being mistreated. He decides that if she is being mistreated, even in the Eastern Command, he will refuse to let it slide.
He observes that the girl has eyes just like his and reminded him of his own childhood self. He admits to himself that this is perhaps why he grew so attached to her. A sudden, soft sigh sounding as he sits alone in a grand, darkened room.
The man rests in quiet contemplation.
A sudden, sharp snap sounding as the final lashes are counted out in the dim dungeon.
The blonde man stands with a fresh set of scars on his back, announcing that the punishment is finally finished.
Louise prepares to leave as the man in the background comments on her lack of restraint during the whipping.
A sudden, loud bang sounding as the blonde man suggests they get some rest, which the other man finds hard to believe after such a beating. A sudden, soft grunt sounding as the dark-haired man questions why a stupid letter was sent while the blonde man insists the Lord is smitten with the woman. A sudden, soft sigh sounding as the dark-haired man dismisses the idea of the Lord smiling or flirting as unbelievable nonsense. Looking out at Maho Castle, the dark-haired man notes that the Lord never lets his guard down, even within his own home. He reflects on how cold the silver-haired man is, never wavering for a single moment.
The scene returns to the Lord as the dark-haired man continues to doubt the possibility that he could have ever smiled. A peaceful moment of reflection.
Elegant details of a formal uniform.
Ariana peacefully waters the palace gardens.
Legal preparations for the custody trial continue with the intent to notify Rachel Bronte of the proceedings.
Ariana reflects on the respectful treatment she receives from the maids and her regular dinners with the Duke's family.
She contrasts her past of constant housework in the West with her current life of leisure in the Eastern Territory. Chibi Ariana struggles to adapt to having so much free time.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as Isabel demands entry to her sister's room despite the guard's hesitation.
The purple-haired girl bursts into the room with joyful energy and a bright smile. Isabel jokingly complains that Ariana is wearing yet another pink dress. She insists that Ariana stop using formal titles and stop being so polite when addressing her.
Isabel leans in close with an intense, playful expression.
She reflects that appearing close in public will be beneficial for Ariana's upcoming custody trial.
The two sisters share a warm, smiling moment together in the sunlight.
a sudden soft laugh sounding as Isabel glows with happiness.
Isabel excitedly pulls Ariana along, explaining that they must begin immediate preparations for the festival. She describes the festival of abundance, featuring prayer for harvests, delicious food, and bustling merchants.
Ariana listens with surprise as Isabel takes charge of the day's activities.
Isabel claims the Duke has no fashion sense and vows that her big sister's help is necessary.
She promises to find a dress that fits the festival's festive atmosphere perfectly for her sister.
Ariana offers a quiet, appreciative smile. An ominous shadow shifts the scene.
A messenger informs the Duke of the West that Ariana has finally been located in the Eastern Territory.
The brown-haired man listens grimly as his subordinate asks for their next course of action regarding the news.
A sudden soft chuckle sounding as the Duke reveals a malicious, knowing grin. A carriage travels through the city. Inside the carriage, Isabel asks Ariana to confirm if the rumors of her mother's abuse were true. Ariana describes being locked away and starved, causing Isabel to react with vocal outrage at such cruelty toward a daughter.
Ariana calmly confirms the painful reality of her upbringing despite being a biological daughter.
Isabel watches her sister with silent concern.
Isabel reassures Ariana that the Duke of the East is a kind man who even cries in secret.
She emphasizes just how much their father missed Ariana during her long absence. Ariana smiles, touched by her sister's words. A sudden soft squish sounding as Isabel playfully pinches Ariana's cheek.
Isabel encourages Ariana to express her true anger or even curse if she feels the need to. She gently scolds her sister for forcing a polite smile instead of showing her real emotions.
The sisters look at each other with understanding. Isabel declares that Ariana doesn't need to play the role of a good girl anymore. A moment of deep, silent connection.
A sudden sharp rustle sounding as a servant announces they have finally arrived at the dress shop.
Ariana gazes at her sister with genuine gratitude. Isabel looks back with a bright expression.
The sisters step out of the carriage. Isabel leads the way into her favorite boutique while holding Ariana's hand.
She introduces the famous designer and tells Ariana she can trust the woman's professional skills. Isabel demands the flashiest dress possible while planning to buy matching accessories and shoes for the occasion.
She orders the dress to be made a size larger to account for Ariana's rapid growth.
Ariana watches her sister bustling about happily.
Ariana reflects that Isabel seems more excited about the shopping trip than she is herself.
Isabel continues her enthusiastic fashion directions. Looking in the mirror, Ariana observes that her sister is actually quite endearing.
She reflects that perhaps Isabel isn't a bad person after all.
A sudden, loud bang sounding as a disturbance interrupts the quiet atmosphere of the boutique.
The guard draws his sword, announcing that he will investigate the source of the noise.
A sudden wet splash sounding as a blade is thrust violently through the door, striking the guard.
Masked assassins in black robes storm the room, confirming they have located their target.
Ariana stares in wide-eyed shock at the sudden intrusion.
She quickly deduces whether her stepmother sent them, but concludes Rachel Bronte wouldn't be this bold.
Her mind races to find the true culprit behind the attack.
She realizes with dread that this must be the work of the Duke of the West.
The memory of the Duke's cold, imposing presence looms over her thoughts.
Despite her preparations, she panics and urges Isabel to flee immediately.
Isabel steps forward defiantly, demanding to know who they are to dare do this. Ariana recalls Cyrus mentioning that the women of the Eastern Territory are exceptional warriors. The lead assassin coldly informs Isabel that they have no interest in her.
Isabel realizes they are from the West and calls them arrogant for attempting a kidnapping.
Seeing she has identified them, the assassin orders his men to kill Isabel.
Ariana screams for them to stop as the threat turns lethal.
Holding a dagger to her own throat, Ariana points out they were likely promised a reward for taking her alive.
She threatens to kill herself on the spot if they lay a single hand on Isabel.
Isabel tries to bargain, suggesting that the reward will be doubled if Ariana is brought back unharmed. The lead assassin orders Ariana to come quietly while Isabel cries out in protest.
Isabel is left behind, looking on with a face full of guilt and horror.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as Ariana pulls Isabel close to whisper a final, urgent plan. The assassin tells Isabel to stop being a nuisance and get out of the way. A sudden, sharp snap sounding as Ariana forcefully pushes her sister toward the exit. The assassin curses as Isabel makes a break for it while he is distracted. He admits to underestimating the girl's cleverness, but notes he intended to kill the witness regardless. A sudden, soft grunt sounding as the man grabs Ariana roughly by the hair. She argues that the testimony of a small girl like Isabel won't serve as real evidence if they aren't caught.
Another assassin warns that the palace guards are approaching and they must leave immediately.
The leader notes they aren't from the Western Command, making them impossible to track.
Isabel sprints through the city streets, desperate to find help for her sister.
Ariana recalls telling Isabel that the assassins would kill her if they caught them both. She remembers convincing her sister that escaping to warn others was their only chance at survival.
Isabel vows to get help, begging Ariana to wait just a little longer.
Bound and hidden in a sack, Ariana realizes they plan to sneak past the gates as merchants.
She laments being caught before proving her worth, fearing she might be discarded as a burden. She quickly hardens her resolve, noting that she had anticipated such a danger.
A sudden, low rumble sounding as the carriage moves toward the city limits.
She reassures herself that she has been preparing for this exact situation.
She recalls Cyrus teaching her how to survive a kidnapping in a harsh environment.
He had advised her to stay conscious and submit to being caught if escape was impossible.
A peaceful moment of reflection as Cyrus demonstrated how to keep a clear head while captured.
Ariana reflects on his arrogant eyes and lazy tone, which she once found infuriating.
She realizes that in this moment of crisis, she truly views him as her teacher.
Following his instructions, she explains that she left extra space in her bindings during the struggle.
A sudden sharp rustle sounding as she begins the difficult task of freeing her hands. With a determined look, she successfully slips her hands out of the loosened ropes.
She notes with relief that they failed to properly check the belongings she has hidden.
Ariana reflects on her kidnapper's oversight, noting they never imagined a noble girl would carry several concealed daggers.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as Ariana carefully peeks out from beneath the wagon's heavy covering. She watches her captors with intense focus, realizing with dread that she is being held by dangerous assassins.
Looking out over the wagon's edge, she concludes that achieving a successful escape will not be an easy task.
Seeing the city gates ahead, Ariana realizes she must time her jump perfectly before they leave the safety of the town.
She recalls the assassins easily overpowering the Knights of the White family, concluding she cannot afford to jump recklessly. She reflects that while Isabel has gone for help, it will take far too much time for rescue to arrive.
She remembers Cyrus advising her that her best chance in an emergency would be to alert a nearby guard post.
Her mind races toward a desperate new plan.
Peering out from her hiding spot, she is surprised to spot knights stationed just ahead.
She realizes there are always knights stationed at the gate posts alongside the regular city soldiers. She spots her chance to act while the kidnappers are momentarily distracted by the road ahead.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounding as Ariana leaps from the moving wagon while the men cry out in shock.
She hits the ground running as one of the men shouts for her to stop.
A hand reaches out in a desperate attempt to snatch her back but misses her by inches.
A sudden loud thud sounding as Ariana hits the stone pavement with a heavy impact.
She groans, ugh, while tumbling across the hard ground, her momentum carrying her forward.
She lies on the street, her pink dress and face covered in dust from the fall.
A close-up of her determined, bright blue eye as she recovers.
She stops moving as a dark boot suddenly appears right beside her hand.
Looking up at the blue-haired man on horseback, Ariana wonders if the news of her kidnapping has already reached the authorities.
The handsome man on the horse is confused, wondering why a young girl would run out to greet him so enthusiastically.
Ariana gazes up at him from the ground with a look of relief.
The man is revealed to be Jor White, the prominent heir of the Eastern Command.
The kidnappers panic at the sight of the knights, cursing their timing and ordering an immediate retreat.
George White calmly draws his blade to deal with the fleeing criminals.
A sudden, wet splash sounding as Jor strikes down the attackers, ordering his men to leave 2 alive for questioning.
He looks down at her and notes that she is quite lucky to have crossed his path.
Kneeling before her, Jor remarks that if he hadn't arrived, she would have certainly met a grim fate.
She reflects on the harsh reality that a child ultimately only has their parents to rely on.
The Duke of the West reflects that the sentimental Duke of the East would have surely taken in his daughter.
He holds a sealed letter identifying the sender as the most powerful witness currently available to testify.
The letter details the witness's account of how the second Bronte daughter was mistreated and offers testimony to clear her name.
The brown-haired man considers a bribe but decides the witness is not motivated by money, leading him toward a darker plan.
A sudden soft sizzle sounding as the Duke burns the testimony, deciding he must use a more drastic method.
A tied assassin defiantly claims he will never talk as Jor and Ariana oversee the interrogation.
George jokes about losing teeth affecting pronunciation, while Ariana notes she is learning much from him.
He tells the prisoner he will list several suspects and expects the man to nod if he hears the right name.
A sudden, sharp thud sounding as Jor kicks the tied man, asking if he can manage such a simple task.
Jor offers a confident, knowing smile to his sting. Ornate floral patterns frame the tense atmosphere of the interrogation room.
A sudden, loud bang sounding as the Duke of the East bursts in, frantically calling out for Ariana.
Ariana greets the Duke as he finds her safe and sound beside the kneeling Jord White. The purple-haired man gazes at her with a face full of worry and release.
Ariana offers a quiet apology for causing him such deep concern.
She explains that Jor ensured her safety, causing the Duke to react with visible shock at the news.
The Duke angrily points out her scraped wrists, refusing to believe she wasn't harmed during the ordeal.
Jor playfully warns that the Duke's fussing might pull her arm off, while Ariana reassures her father she is fine.
Jor jokingly asks if the Duke is showing favoritism toward the pretty Duchess, claiming he'll cry if the discrimination continues.
The Duke gently leads Ariana away, insisting that she doesn't need to witness such a dark and horrible scene.
A sudden sharp ring sounding as a vibrant blue energy ripples across the screen.
George White and the purple-haired Duke of the East convene in a dim, stone-walled room.
Leaning down, the blue-haired Jor White remarks that Ariana is even prettier than the rumors suggested. George White claims that he is responsible for making Ariana the person she is today.
The Duke of the East watches Jor White with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity.
Jor White approaches a bound captive, eager to extract information to aid in the upcoming custody trial.
The Duke of the East kneels before Ariana, his heart breaking as he examines the raw wounds on her wrists.
A sudden, loud shout sounding as the Duke of the East reacts with frantic, exaggerated concern for Ariana's injuries.
Ariana flinches in surprise at her father's sudden and overwhelming outburst of emotion. The Duke of the East immediately softens his voice, apologizing for startling her with his loud protective instincts. Ariana looks away with a somber expression, simply stating that she isn't okay. A close-up reveals the deep jacket scars from the ropes that once bound Ariana's small wrists. She reflects on the terrifying moments in her past where she came face to face with death.
Ariana remembers the agony of having to perform her own crude surgery on festering wounds while trapped in a cave.
She recalls her cold interactions with the Duke of the West, who held out a scroll as if she were a mere tool. The blonde-haired Duke of the West walked away from her, treating her existence as a calculated means to an end.
To him, Ariana was a being born for a singular purpose, and without it, she was considered entirely worthless.
Back in the present, the Duke of the East guides Ariana through the palace courtyard as a woman calls out her name.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as Rachel Bronte pulls Ariana into a tight, tearful embrace.
The Duke of the East gazes at Ariana with profound sorrow, apologizing once more for failing to protect her from such harm.
Ariana stares blankly with her bright blue eyes, her past trauma still weighing heavily on her mind.
She tries to minimize her suffering, reasoning that she didn't die and wasn't technically tortured, so the injuries are minor.
Her face remains stoic as she tries to convince everyone, including herself, that she is fine.
A sudden soft tremble sounding as her hands shake uncontrollably despite her attempts to appear strong.
Later, a maid tends to Ariana as she sits atop her grand ornate bed in the royal chambers.
The maid urges her to rest, but the moment is interrupted by Isabel bursting into the room with a shout. A sudden loud thud sounding as Isabel throws herself at her sister, sobbing with relief that she is alive.
Isabel's face is a mask of pure grief and guilt as she cries over Ariana's ordeal.
The young girl wails uncontrollably, burying her face in the bedsheets beside her sister.
Watching her sister's intense reaction, Ariana realizes that her family truly cares for her in a way she never expected.
Isabel vows to train harder with her sword so that she can personally protect Ariana from any future danger.
Ariana looks at her sister with wide, surprised eyes, touched by the depth of her devotion.
The scene shifts to the Grand Hall where the leadership declares they cannot let this kidnapping go unpunished.
The Duke of the East and his advisors conclude that Rachel must be behind the attack and decide they must respond. Ariana stands tall amidst white lilies, her presence commanding and ethereal in her pink gown. She offers a gentle, determined smile, showing she is ready to face the coming storm. Ariana asks to join the council meeting, and the Duke of the East eventually agrees to let them discuss the matter together. A bespectacled aide informs the group that the custody hearing at the Supreme Court is set for early May. Ariana deduces that the Duke of the West already knows her location and will move to destroy any incriminating evidence. She envisions the Duke of the West as a predatory serpent, cold and calculating, with spies hidden throughout the empire. A close-up of her focused blue eye as she anticipates how he will target her planned evidence and witnesses. A sudden sharp bang sounding as Ariana slams her hands onto the table, ordering the men to prepare for action. She realizes with mounting dread that the chief of investigation is likely the next target in the Duke's plan. A sudden, loud crash sounding as a frantic messenger bursts into the room with urgent news.
The messenger reports that the chief of investigation, who was scheduled to testify, has suddenly vanished.
Ariana's eyes widen in shock as her worst fears regarding the Duke's interference are confirmed.
Deep in the woods, a horse stands over a fallen body, confirming the witness has indeed gone missing.
A sudden wet splash sounding as fresh blood stains the grass near the site of the abduction.
Back in his study, the Duke of the West smirks with cold satisfaction, clearly behind the recent disappearance.
Ariana grimly admits they were outsmarted by the Duke's quick wits, realizing the battle for her future has only just begun.
The blue-haired Jor White suggests that their opponent likely doesn't know about their other witness, Duchess Laventa, while the Duke of the East notes that Duchess Bronte's fear of the Duke of the West kept her silent about her own mistakes.
Standing before the seated men, the Duke of the East asks if the assassins talked, only to have Jor explain they died prematurely, though he maintains their testimony wouldn't have been very helpful.
Ariana stands in quiet contemplation, her small arms wrapped in thick white bandages as she listens to the news of the assassins' deaths. She envisions the Duke of the West as a looming, cold figure, his immense power casting a long and terrifying shadow over her life.
A sudden sharp crackle sounding as jagged lines of tension pulse through the air.
A close-up of Ariana's focused blue eye as she calmly reminds the men that they still have more witnesses to rely on for the trial. Jor White recalls that Duchess Laventa and several other nobles attended the garden party that day and asks Ariana if she remembers them all. A sudden soft hum sounding as Ariana offers a confident smile, explaining that she meticulously memorized the list of attendees in anticipation of this very moment. The Duke of the East looks on with an expression of pure shock, a single bead of sweat rolling down his face as he realizes how prepared his daughter truly is. Jor White jokingly predicts she will soon push him out of the succession, but Ariana quickly reassures him that she has no greed for the position of heir. She notes that such a move is necessary because even the smallest bit of information could plant a seed of doubt in the minds of the people.
A close-up reveals Jor's internal realization that while Ariana has never seen a courtroom, she already possesses a natural talent for swaying its atmosphere.
A symbolic illustration shows Lady Justice standing between a judge and an archbishop, representing the shared power they hold in overseeing the trial and making a final judgment. The Duke of the East sits in thought, considering the advantage of having Cardinal Iodes, a man known for his care of children, sitting on the bench.
Ariana starts to rise in surprise at the mention of petitioning the Emperor, but the Duke of the East gently urges her to stay seated while they talk.
She worries that her father is already under heavy scrutiny from the crown and questions whether taking such a massive risk is the right move for him.
Jor White watches her with a serious and analytical expression, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the legal battle ahead.
He rests his chin on his hand, silently observing the young girl who continues to surprise him with her tactical mind. Later in the office, Jor playfully complains that his father hasn't offered even a single word of praise for his recent victory in the war. The Duke of the East offers a dry, minimalist compliment, causing Jor to laugh at how half-hearted and dismissive his father's reaction is.
Jor asks if the Duke is in such a gloomy mood because of his lingering guilt and complicated feelings toward Ariana.
Ariana is depicted as a girl who is clever beyond necessity and possesses a resolve that leaves absolutely no room for error.
The Duke reflects on how she watched a cruel interrogation without even blinking, showing a level of stoicism that deeply troubles him.
A dark thought lingers over the scene, questioning the terrifying conditions she must have endured to become so desensitized to violence.
A sudden soft sigh sounding as the Duke looks down with a face full of sorrow, his eyes showing the weight of his regrets.
While Jor sees Ariana as a highly useful and smart young lady, the Duke of the East firmly declares that he has no intention of ever using her for his own gain.
He envisions a peaceful future for her, wishing for her to live comfortably like other children while enjoying pretty clothes and delicious food.
Jor looks away in silence, acknowledging the Duke's protective instincts but clearly still thinking of the practical steps they must take.
George White prepares to depart on his horse, his face set in a determined and serious expression as he leaves the palace grounds.
Ariana stares forward with a cold, intense gaze, her expression making it clear that she has no desire to live as a passive doll for others to control.
Jor encourages his father not to be so gloomy as they conclude their meeting in the expansive book-filled study. The Duke of the East reflects on the painful reality that he abandoned her for years and realizes that his daughter likely hates him terribly for it.
Jor White notes that knowing her hatred is actually a relief because it means the Duke simply needs to take the first step and ask for her forgiveness.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as Ariana lies on the floor of her bedroom, completely absorbed in the many books she has gathered from the library.
She finds the quiet moment relaxing, but feels a strange sense of guilt for being idle when so many people are working toward her future.
The Duke of the East calls out from outside her door, causing Ariana to jump up in shock as she realizes she was caught lying on the floor.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding as she frantically worries about her messy hair before granting him permission to enter the room.
Ariana offers a deep and elegant curtsy as the Duke of the East enters, his tall stature looming over her as she greets him.
She peeks up at him with wide, curious eyes, her hands clasped together as she waits for him to speak.
The Duke looks down at her with a remarkably proud and satisfied expression, a soft, sparkly aura surrounding his face. He tells her she shouldn't feel obligated to stand up every time he visits, but Ariana insists she couldn't possibly greet a man of his rank while lying down.
When he asks if she is bored, Ariana happily explains that she has been enjoying the many interesting books he allowed her to take from the library.
A sudden soft hum sounding as an awkward silence settles between them before Ariana finally asks if he has something specific to say to her. The pair begins to walk together through the sun-drenched grand corridor of the palace, the tiny girl appearing dwarfed by the massive Duke.
Ariana's eyes dart sideways as she begins to panic, wondering if she's about to be kicked out of the palace for some unknown reason.
A sudden soft tremble sounding as she worries if she should have been more proactive with the housework to prove her usefulness to the Duke.
From behind a grand pillar, the dark purple-haired Isabel spots them and watches with a look of pure shock on her face.
A sudden loud eek sounding as Isabel shrieks and sprints away in a panic, leaving Ariana and the Duke staring after her in total confusion.
Ariana reflects on how Isabel usually runs toward her with excitement and wonders why her sister is suddenly acting so terrified and distant.
She stands frozen in the hallway, her wide blue eyes following her sister's retreating form as she tries to make sense of the strange encounter.
The scene is filled with vibrant streamers and balloons as a surprise celebration begins.
Ariana stands motionless, completely overwhelmed by the unexpected festive display.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding as the dark purple-haired Isabel embraces her sister, explaining that they kept the party simple because her existence hasn't been officially revealed yet.
The Duke of the East approaches, carrying a large gift box wrapped in a pink ribbon.
He stands before the young girl, his tall figure casting a protective shadow as he offers the present.
A close-up of Ariana's wide blue eye reflects her disbelief. A sudden, soft thump sounding as he presents the box, noting that she likely never received proper gifts in the past.
He tells her that for the first time, he is finally able to congratulate her on her birthday in person.
A sudden soft gasp sounding as tears well in Ariana's eyes, and she desperately commands herself to stay composed despite the surging emotion.
She reflects on the need to maintain her dignity while grappling with the unfamiliar concept of a birthday celebration.
Ariana struggles to suppress her feelings, reminding herself that she must not show even a hint of weakness or vulnerability. A sudden, sharp sob sounding as her resolve finally breaks and she lets out a cry of pure, raw emotion.
The Duke of the East kneels down and pulls his weeping daughter into a warm, comforting embrace.
A sudden loud boom sounding as thunder rumbles over the dark mansion where a cruel voice mocks someone for hiding.
In a dimly lit room, a woman informs the Duke of the West that the scandals are worsening and Victoria refuses to leave her bedroom.
She is visibly shaken when he mentions that the Duke of the East will likely use abuse allegations as a pretext for a custody trial.
The Duke of the West calmly reveals he has already eliminated potential witnesses and worries that the empathetic Cardinal Eodes might oversee the proceedings.
A sudden, sharp slap sounding as a hand strikes with violent force.
He grabs the woman's hair and sneers, warning her to prepare herself properly and avoid further tarnishing his honor.
Back at the palace, Ariana is surrounded by people offering gifts, realizing her life has taken an unimaginable turn. Surrounded by white lilies, she feels a sense of tender affection and warmth that she struggles to put into words.
Ariana offers a soft, genuine smile. Her small hand rests gently atop the large gift box.
A sudden soft hum sounding as she laughs, admitting to herself that she is entirely unprepared for such happiness.
Later in her room, Ariana collapses onto her bed, feeling completely drained after the long day of celebrations.
She stares quietly at the gift given to her by the Duke of the East.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as she begins to untie the ribbon to see what is inside. Inside the box is a pale green teddy bear, and she recalls Isabel mentioning that the color would suit her perfectly.
Ariana smiles at the stuffed animal, amused that her father still views her as such a young child.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as she pulls the bear close, realizing that for some reason, she doesn't mind the childish gift at all.
The days at the palace pass in a blur, and soon the night before the custody hearing arrives.
Ariana walks through the moonlit gardens, unable to find the sleep her father urged her to take.
She informs the man following her that she only intends to take a brief walk and asks him not to tail her.
The dark-haired guard with a scar on his cheek, Sir Lannister, insists that he must stay close following the Duke's orders for her protection.
Ariana asks him to speak freely and treat her casually, noting that she hasn't officially become a duchess yet.
A sudden, quiet hush sounding as Ariana notes that while the guard is right beside her, his presence is almost impossible to detect.
The memory of people from the north flashes through her mind, and she silently hopes that they are all doing well.
She realizes it might be many years, perhaps even the rest of her life, before she ever sees them again.
Ariana asks Lannister if Eastern Knights can mask their presence like Northerners, but he explains the Northern sheath is a unique magic exclusive to them.
She questions if he could sense a cloaked Northerner, and he asserts that the White Knights of the East are the equals of the Northern Black Knights.
A sudden sharp snap sounding as the knight's head whips around toward the shadows.
He surveys the area before reporting that there is no one currently hiding in the vicinity. Close-up of Ariana's focused purple eye. She reasons that the man she is thinking of is far too busy to be loitering around the eastern lands. She envisions a silver-haired man in ornate white and gold armor, his expression calm and noble. When Lannister asks if there is someone from the north she fears, she reassures him that no one there would ever wish her harm. The pair continues their walk through the silent blue-tinted palace grounds.
A sudden soft rustle sounding as they pass statues that Ariana finds unsettling in the darkness of the night.
A sudden sharp click sounding as a voice from the shadows asks if she is having trouble sleeping. The blue-haired Jor White leans against a statue, advising her to get some rest since she is scheduled to depart early the next morning.